never been faced with what we're being faced with now. I mean, if you go back in history as you do, I mean, obviously, if you look at World War II, everything that was taking place there, for those of us that understood the 60s, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, but never have we seen one challenge hit the whole planet at one time. You may see a devastating earthquake in one area, a hurricane or tornado in a certain area, but never to where it's hit the entire planet at one time. And so I think that what's happening is, I call this a life interruption. Mm-hmm. It is a life interruption, but it's at an epic level. So what we need is we need seers that can see beyond what we're facing. And we need people of maturity that understand the battle. And so that's why people are on listening to you guys today, because they're looking for people of maturity that understand this kind of battle.
I got to believe that a lot of your former clients are reaching out to you. I mean, you're the guy. And what are some of the things you're telling them? Yes, we need positive, but what are you teaching them, giving them some tactics, some visualization techniques?
Well, number one,
what are some of the things you're guiding people with?
We've never been this busy, and I'm extremely busy. So, my background is my doctorate's in world religion, but I took many, many years of counseling, crisis counseling, and I do counsel and life coach over 350 celebrities, entertainers. I've been doing that since 1990. And so, that's usually the life that I live of. If you see them on TMZ getting in trouble, I'm probably the guy helping them almost all the time. But this
they call you after the trouble, right?
They call me not before, they call me after.
It's not a problem until they get in trouble, right?
Right. But this is, as we said earlier, this is a paramount situation that is so much bigger, that is creating a lot of panic, a lot of fear, and fear of what? Fear of the unknown, mm-hmm. Fear of what can happen to everything that took me forever to build. And that's what I find that a lot of people are thinking about, Gene, is, wow, I feel swamped, submerged, engulfed, and buried. And am I going to get out of this?
No doubt. And I can say that from, what we do here at Success Resources, we up to this point have been a live events company, the largest in the world. We did over 500 live events last year. And, our America's office is one of 30 offices around the world. The world's a pretty darn big place.
Yes.
And we've been impacting millions of lives, and we've had to shift everything that we had done as a business. And we went back to the core fundamental questions. How do we serve others at the highest level? Hence why we're having this conversation right mm-hmm. now. What we did know is that, hey, we've got, several 100,000 people that have attended our events and are in our databases that we can communicate with via email. And we have access to some of the greatest minds, including yourself, around the world. And that includes people that have very specific disciplines. Maybe it's marketing, maybe it's psychology, mindset of success, meditation, breathing exercises. And our mission has always been to bring the best in the world to the rest of the world.
Yes.
So I want to dig deep here in this short time we have together to say, what are some of the tactical things that you're helping people navigate through? One thing about this challenge we're in is it impacts every human being. There's no special group because they make a certain amount of money that is protected. It has been the great equalizer of all of us as humans.
Yes.
And watching people, how they're responding. And, I look at social media and see it's been an amazing movement to see some of the positivity and some of the, people trying to find humor out of their boredom, and some of the creativity has been amazing. But I want to turn it over to you. Like, what are some of the things you're advising? Is there like 6 steps to think about, or 3 things to do? What?
Yes. So I think one of the things that I've been teaching for years is that there are 3 levels of living: almost, most, and utmost. Almost means not quite, nearly, sort of. And as you know, there are, 7 basic areas of your life. You have your spiritual life, your physical, your mental, which would be your clarity of mind, your job, your finances, your family, and your social life. So this health epidemic, this pandemic that has hit the world, has challenged people in all 7 areas of their life. The spiritual, the physical, the mental, the job, the finances, the family, the social. Now, there's no way that you're going to get beyond this challenge if you are stuck in an almost life. You've got to upgrade yourself to the place where you should have been all along. And that is utmost living. So utmost living to me is you have to become uncommon. To be uncommon, as you know, means not regular, not the standard, not the norm. So I challenge everyone that's watching right now is to shake yourself up a little bit. Don't get stuck in an almost life in any area of your life. And you've got to rise up and be the world shaker that you were always called to be. Now, if you were not supposed to be a world shaker, I wouldn't call you one. But I'm asking you to rise up and be the world shaker that you're supposed to be and live this uncommon life. Uncommon again, not normal, not regular, not the standard. And I think you would agree, Gene, living almost is not going to work.
Right.
Because if you don't do something with life, life will do something with you. So right now, at the beginning of April, we're going to get pushed around unless we get very, very assertive. All right. So I'll just give you a couple of things I'm bringing people through as I am coaching people. Number one, you have to have uncommon thoughts. Man, the battle is right here. You got to quit thinking survival mode and start realizing that you were built to get through adversity. You were built to get through pain. You were built to get through challenging times. So you have to have uncommon thoughts. And then in the midst of the challenge, continue to make uncommon plans. As you know this, Gene, that in some of the most difficult times in the history of the world, some of the greatest things have been accomplished.
Right.
All right.
It's the old "without a vision we shall perish." But man, it's tough to think past June.
Yes.
Or
yes.
even April right now.
And that's that area where I'm saying that it's so easy to just be almost and just let this thing just take you back. But that's where we have to really begin to press the battle. We need to press back. And you have to get to the point where you're tired of being tired, tired of being normal, tired of being depressed, tired of being confused, and press back. So when I talk about press back, what does that say to you? When I'm talking about pressing the battle, Gene, what does that say to you?
It says push against some of the fears and doubts and uncertainties that, you just have to turn the TV. And if you're short on those, just turn the TV on, watch for about a half hour, and you can get right back into that
beautiful
state of fear. And, I don't want to say panic, because I see a lot of resilient humans out there, but what if, it's April 2nd. So for a lot of people, their mortgage payment, their rent's due, most of their payments are going out. So that's what when I'm reading the emails of people that are coming to me or people that are on these educational sessions we're doing, that's what's on people's minds.
Yes. I like what you're saying. So you have to have uncommon thoughts. You have to have uncommon plans. And as you just said, you took my third point, you got to have uncommon discipline. Because the thoughts are going to come, the panic, the dread, the worry, the unrest, the doubt, the unbelief. And they even hit me too. I mean, I have a family. I have an 89-year-old mother who lives down the street that her doctor and my older sisters are telling me I can't go visit her. So it's easy for me to get overwhelmed, swamped, submerged, and engulfed and buried in these thoughts. but I choose every day to feed my faith and starve my doubts.
How?
I got to feed my faith. So for me, because of my background in Christianity, I'll go to the Psalms, I'll go to the Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes, let me just say this. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, it says there's a time and a season for everything. A time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent, a time to speak. Now, we're living in what I call a season of silence. And that is where life has taken us from a shout to a whisper. This is one of Oprah's favorite lines of mine. I say that sometimes life will knock the shout out of you. I remember, Gene, one time I was in the fourth grade and I was trying to defend this girl. She was drinking out of the water faucet, and this big bully who was a year older than me, and he was big. He pushed her while she was drinking out of the water fountain because she took too long. And so I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "Hey, you didn't need to do that." Next thing I know, boom, he hit me so hard in the stomach. I went down to the ground and I could not breathe. He knocked the wind out of me.
Right.
And that's what this health challenge and pandemic has done to so many people. It has punched them in the gut and knocked the shout out of them. But I ask you, do you believe we can still get our shout back?
No doubt. Like there isn't one person on earth right now going, let me change that. Most people on earth, right? I mean, you watch enough news that like, this is the end, right? There's another one coming.
Yeah.
Are saying we're going to come. Here's what we know to be true based on, and I've had a chance to talk to at least 20 experts like yourself. We're going to come out of this. We're going to get stronger. There is some unknown. We don't know when, but every, let's call it disaster or recession we've gone through has made the human race stronger. That we know to be true. And you can believe that or believe the opposite of that. But either way, your beliefs are going to carry you or pull you back, right?
100%. So going with what you're saying is that number one, we have to be sober about this. We have to be sober and alert and pay attention to this is real, okay? Number two, hopefully you have compassion towards people that have truly lost individuals in their life that have died. I talked to a young man yesterday, his father's in the hospital and not doing well. So all of us know somebody who has either passed or they have the illness. So you become sober, compassionate, but here's a third, and this is what you're doing. That's why I'm excited to join you, is that you're taking action. You are taking action. And we are saying, as you just said, we will somehow get through this storm.
Now, as I get loads of emails and texts and DMs and IMs, and I want to hear from everybody that I know that indirectly knows me. I also hear this, Tim, is that many, not all, but many, many, many millionaires were created out of the recession, 100%. Out of the housing crisis, post 9/11, when the market tanked. And I talked to some of these people in the financial world, and they're going, this is going to be unprecedented economic opportunity down the road. I mean, what's your take on that? I'm more like the newspaper reporter. I'm sharing, I've had a chance to talk to enough people that when you talk to enough people and see enough of and ask the same questions, you start to see patterns in the answers that some of these people that have achieved some pretty big things like yourself. So I just want to hear your perspective, and so does the audience.
Well, I'm talking to, the smartest guys in the world. And, some of my mentors, when you look at Vidal Sassoon helped mentor me. As you said, Lee Iacocca, Quincy Jones. These are guys that went through a lot of very strong things in their life, a lot of difficulty. And one of the things that I learned is that when they went through difficulty, number one, you have to reset. Mm-hmm. Number two, you need to renew. And number three, you got to redo. And so, we're both in the same business, where I traveled the world for 35 years, right?
Yep. Yep.
And you guys have set up these seminars changing millions of lives. You've had to reset, renew, and redo even the way you're doing business the next few months.
That's correct. That included, you know, working through the appropriate handling of employees and resetting all of our forecasts, the financial plan that we spent months building. That's, you know, at least for the next 90 days is radically disrupted, possibly further on. We don't know the exact date. So in our reset, what we did for ourselves, and we can banter this, Tim, is we said, okay, the world as we knew it in our professional, what we did, live events, is not going to happen for at least the next 90 days. Secondly, is part of that reset said, if we know to be true that it's service to many that leads to greatness, good old Zig Ziglar said that, and it's so true, that if you put your mind into the serving mode, how can you help your fellow man? Now we have this forum, which is we have Zoom. We have a large database of people that are believers in personal development, that believe in feeding their brain like they would feed their body. They want to have a healthy outlook. Then you got to feed yourself healthy stuff. Yes. And we had access to, you know, Joe McClendon, who's coming on after you, to John Assaraf from the movie The Secret, one of the smartest brain guys that I've ever met, tomorrow. Tim Storey. We had Gene Simmons on a couple of weeks ago. I'm trying to get perspective from the rock stars, the professional athletes and Super Bowl champions, the business titans, the personal development and life coach titans, and yourself. So we reset to say, how do we add value? Then we said, okay, we are a business. Yeah. And we do have bills to pay. We do have employees that we need to pay for. So how do we take this forum and add even more value by offering programs for sale? And we've experimented with some of those, and those have been, you know, I'll call them moderately successful. And the other thing is I've got to be guarded of is I'm not going to put somebody in front of this audience that I haven't personally vetted myself. Yes. So that requires even more work. If somebody's going to offer a program, then I need to go see every single detail of that program. I'm going to look at reviews, Better Business Bureau ratio. I'm not just going to put people out there to try to sell things to generate cash flow, because that does not bode well for the long-term brand. I mean, this is a time where, and I do see people, I want to get your perspective on this. I do see some people and some companies thinking very short term. I had an email forwarded to me from somebody that I knew that they lease a house, and the property management company had sent, you know, this is the third email they had sent, is, we will prosecute you if you don't make your payment. All payments are the same. All penalties are the same. And I thought, I will never in the history of my life do business with that company. Oh yeah. So there's people making moves. Then you see the other moves of all these companies that were, let's say, manufacturing cars that are now manufacturing ventilators. And I start to say, here's what I'm saying to myself. And by the way, if you're watching this right now and you want to put some comments in or ask Tim questions, do that right now. I mean, this feed is going live. And, oh, there's Jen Shipman. Hi, Jen. But I'm starting to make long-term brand decisions based on the communication I'm getting from companies. Tesla's making ventilators, and I think it was either Ford Motor Company or General Motors, and now they're making masks. And in my mind, there's this long-term implant that's going, love that company. In my minding, I'm seeing not that many, but I am seeing companies that are making very short-term selfish decisions, like that leasing, that housing management company. And I saw that email and it just about made me sick to my stomach. Yeah, Gene, I'm liking how you're thinking. And as we talked about reset, renew, redo, you are talking about the power of the reset. Yep. But I think, you know, many times is that people think that the reset is negative. No, it's not. You know, in fact, let's say even in sports, many times a basketball player that starts to age, even like a LeBron James, begins to reset and redo the way he played the game. So LeBron has said in interviews, he's not trying to play above the rim like he used to. He's having to be smarter in how he takes care of his body. He's got a different type of game that he plays based on the fact that he's now in his mid-30s.
And so I feel that a lot of people in this world needed to reset. It's terrible that we're going through what we're going through. But while I'm going through it, I want to say, how did I get here? And now what should I do? Don't ever forget that. How did I get here? And now what should I do?
Yeah. You mentioned LeBron and you made me think of something. I was watching an interview with Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter.
Yes.
And he said he was studying LeBron James and he read that LeBron invests over $1 million a year on coaching for himself. That's his body, his mind,
Yes.
his physicality, his technique, and his skill. Because, even the greatest golfer in the world can't see their own swing. That's why, you hear all the stories of Tiger having coaches. And Conor McGregor in the interview, and he's with Tony Robbins, so I got my favorite UFC fighter and one of my favorite personal development guys that I've been following since 1992. So good grief, that's almost 30 years. Oh man, I'm getting old. And Connor said, I thought about it for a moment, and he said, I hadn't spent a dime on myself. And, I even, like, as I get a chance, I've had a chance in the past to work, with Tony Robbins side by side and behind the scenes. And, when he's not on stage and he's backstage, he's in his green room, he's got body workers and he's got energy people and he's got chiropractors. And tell me about the impact of coaching. And I'm not trying to pimp coaching here. I'm just saying that you study these super successful people, from athletes to business moguls to Hollywood stars. One of the common patterns is they all have a coach, and it's not a mentor that gives them advice. We all have great mentors available in our life, but they pay the money to have the coach. Now, why do people do that? I mean, you're obviously the guy that many of those stars go to.
Yeah, but as you know as well as me, Gene, because we've been doing the same thing for a long time. It's one thing to get there. It's another thing to stay there. So I was coaching a guy yesterday. It's probably one of the biggest managers in Beverly Hills. If I told you the 5 clients he has, it's like 5 mega clients. I've been coaching him for 23 years, he told me yesterday. Now, why is that? Because again, it's one thing to get there. It's another thing to stay there.
Right.
And a coach will help you not just to become the right person and to have the right plan, but to stay on your priority pathway. I'm telling you, all of you that are watching right now, these challenges are trying to take you off your yellow brick road. You got to continue to follow the yellow brick road, and you need to finish what you started. So you got to finish what you started. So as Gene is saying, the importance of the coach is paramount. And if LeBron James is paying to get people to help him with his mindset, to help him with his body, to help him get prepared, body, soul, and spirit, that I think could be a great, great idea for you to do as well. And Gene and I were talking earlier about there's different parts of your life. You have your spiritual life, your physical life, your mental life, your job, your finances, your family, your social life. And if I was to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing spiritually? 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, what would you say? How are you doing physically?
Hey, you're not going to put me on the spot in front of a few hundred people, are you?
No, Gene, I'm not asking you. I'm asking all the people that are watching us.
Well, I'm mentally answering these questions, and my answer is I could be a lot better. I mean, I'm just being honest. I could be a lot better.
So that's why what you're doing is working. Because I've heard about you for many, many years.
Thank you.
And I'm trying to tell you, Gene, what you're doing is working because you're helping people to lift themselves maybe from a 3 to a 7 physically, mentally, job, finances, family, social, again. So let's take this opportunity to reset, renew, and redo. And I'm telling you, I'm just not an optimistic person only. I'm realistic, but I'm also educated. You're coming through this thing. As Robert Downey Jr. quotes Tim Storey, the greater the setback, the greater the comeback.
So true.
Come on, he became Iron Man.
So Tim, like I'll give a personal little quick story, which is, the gym's all closed. Like, oh man, I can't go to the gym. And just because you can't go to the gym doesn't mean you have just suddenly hit rock bottom and live on, chocolate and soda all day. Well, I found myself getting into that pattern. Lots of stress going on, business, money, finance, relationships, all that stuff. So we said, okay, we're going to do a little family thing here. So we went for a 2-mile walk, and we timed ourselves. And the time was the time. We said, okay, we're going to commit every day moving forward. We're going to do the same walk, the same 2 miles. And all we got to do is beat yesterday.
Hey,
and it's become so fun because the most recent one we did, we found ourselves having to jog. And this, Gene Simmons said this when he was talking about being a champion, because I asked Gene Simmons, like, why you're in 43 years of touring. He's 72 years old, 73 years old. He said a champion does not wake up and compare herself or himself to other people. They wake up to compare themselves to their very best. And he said, that's what drives him. Wow. Really interesting perspective. And, they were, think about it, Kiss. I don't think any of those people in the band are out there for the money to make a few, whatever they make on a tour, on a show. They were going just as hard up until a month ago as they were 30 years ago.
Gene, I tell you what's going to happen out of this is people are going to become more what, Tim Storey? More compassionate, more caring. They're going to have more gratitude. They're going to make more money, because people that have lost their jobs are now saying, maybe my spending was way out of hand.
Yeah.
And now I have nothing in my savings. I didn't, quote unquote, save for a rainy day, as our parents taught us. So even people that are just my buddies that I don't like, Coach, who are calling me for advice, are saying, man, Tim, this will never happen to me again. I cannot believe I just went overboard, from the car I have, to the boat I have, to the this I have, to the that I have. I think people are becoming more frugal. They're becoming more disciplined. And that reset is going to help change a lot of people's lives. But until we get through this, we need to heal each other. Man, we need to be God's hands extended. So that's what I'm about. I'm into self-care because I want to be fit to handle helping a whole lot of people. And that's what you're doing on these live events.
Hey, Tim, you mentioned some scriptures in the Bible. What else are you doing to feed your own brain?
I've got books coming from everywhere. Look at Jocko. If you can't learn from a Navy SEAL, you're in trouble.
Jocko.
This is a best-selling book. Ray Dalio, look at that. Boom, right there on principles. So I am constantly feeding myself. I was a kid, Compton, California, 7 people in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I didn't like being Poe. So I decided to change that. The slight edge.
Did you say Poe? Did you say Poe?
We were Poe. And I got the slight edge. I got stuff coming left and right. I am feeding my faith and starving my doubts. Nobody can kick this mentality out of me. It's too late. I have my mind so renewed that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that I ask or imagine. And I know that even with the losses that we have of people, listen, I lost my own father in a car accident, my own sister in a car accident, my own brother passed from addiction, and I'm still optimistic. I still believe that life is good, even all the pain that I've been through.
Hey, friends, if you have questions for Tim Storey, and I've got one from Patty Hansen. She just said, can you name those first 2 books one more time? I know one of them is Ray Dalio, Principles, which will probably go down as one of the all-time greats. That book just came out last year.
Leadership Strategy and Tactics by Jocko Willink. It's a very, very strong book, very powerful book. He is a former Navy SEAL.
Yep.
And goes from that level. The Ray Dalio is amazing. And then Jeff Olson, Turning Simple Disciplines into Massive Success and Happiness.
Slight edge, love that.
Yeah, and then you may want to get my book for free. My understanding is I'm giving my book away today. which Oprah Winfrey helped make a bestseller. And why I'm giving it away, I must like you humans, but I'm giving away, I think today, my book, Comeback and Beyond, how to turn your setbacks into comebacks, but not just have a comeback, but go beyond.
Jerry, can you make, oh, there it is, timstorey.com/ebook. And you are giving that away. Thank you very much.
Giving it away.
Hey,
Yes.
Tim, how ironic that you wrote a book on the comeback after the setback and how relevant that is right now. How long ago did you write that book and why'd you write it?
I wrote that book probably about 7 years ago, and it did very, very well. And then about 4 years ago was the first time that Oprah interviewed me. And it was amazing, Gene. She had the book on her lap. It was an hour interview. And she would say, on page 83, I love what you say. And page 99, and I thought she was going to put the book on the desk and never did. The whole interview, she kept going through the pages, and it just literally changed my life. And then from there, I went from Oprah all the time. I've got new projects with Oprah I'm doing now. Then it went from Steve Harvey, 3 projects with Steve Harvey, and then it just took off. But I wrote that book 7 years ago, and yeah, turning your setbacks to comebacks. But see, I believe like you. I believe we're going to have a comeback and beyond. We're not going to sit in the setback, man. We're going beyond. We're going to be okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies now that are seeing levels of success with the virtual workforce and using video-based programs. We choose to use Zoom, but there's others such as GoToMeeting and WebEx, and there's dozens of new ones popping up. And people are starting to find that we can still connect. Tim, I got to ask you another very important question. What did you think of Tiger King? I'm joking. I'm just joking.
No, but that's a relevant question because everybody's talking about that. It's like one of the hottest shows. All I got to say is they're liking that people are having to stay home. The creators of Tiger King are excited that there are people that now have to watch those personalities. Let's just say that.
I said that a little bit tongue in cheek, but you can't turn on social media without seeing it. So sure enough, over Friday night and Saturday, I'm with Jen and we're like, let's watch an episode. And
listen, I'm friends with Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, and they're both watching it. So it's interesting.
But it's so wildly entertaining, and it was a form of, I'll just call it, I don't want to use, maybe it's escapism to understand, you know, how real and human and raw and disturbing that show is. But there's lessons to come out of that.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong with still having joy in the midst of a crisis. You know, many times I'll be doing a funeral, conducting a funeral as a pastor. And then I find that after the actual funeral and people have cried in that, if we later go to somebody's house, the humor starts, where they'll start, you know, saying nice, funny stories about the person who passed or just about life. So there is a time to grieve, a time to mourn, but there's a time to laugh. And don't be afraid to laugh even in the midst of the time to mourn, because we're human beings, and laughter is saying, I still believe in life. See, the word life, as you know, is the word Zoe, which means a animated life. We are supposed to live an animated life. I look at your face, thank God you're still animated for the age of 32. You're 32 years of age, Gene, and you're still animated.
I'm still going. There's a lot more to me to love right now, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, so I'm still animated. No matter what I've been through in life, I'm still animated because I'm not flowing on my own power, man. I'm tapped into the source. I am tapped into the source, and there's not going to be a power shortage. I'm going to keep on flowing.
Hey, Tim, a few more minutes we got. Let's circle back to Oprah. Just play this out for me. So your phone rings and maybe you probably didn't recognize the phone number and it's like, hi, Tim, it's Oprah. How did that go down? I mean, that's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, Oprah and I are actually really good friends. We're really good friends, and we talk, we joke, we hang out. To go to dinner at Oprah's house a lot is a pretty cool thing. You ought to do it when she invites you. She has good food. She has a lot of different selections. The view's nice. It's called the Pacific Ocean. And so through an amazing lady in Miami, she introduced me to Oprah's executive producer, my good friend Diane Hudson. And she then told Oprah, you got to have Tim Storey. And already Quincy Jones had been saying it, and so had her best friend Gayle King. We then connected, and man, we just hit it off. And we're going to do a lot of things to help enhance this world. We have many projects that we're working on now that will be beneficial, I think, to a lot of people.
Somebody just said, if Oprah invites you, I better get a tag-along invite from Timmy G. Hey, Timmy G. He is the master G on the notes section. So Tim, many things inspire me about Oprah, and I think everybody here is like, she might be one of the more powerful people. And when you really understand her backstory, it's even more impressive. And what's she, it's two questions. One is, one of the many things that inspire me, but one thing that super inspires me is, if Oprah Winfrey can find time to read books, what's my excuse?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you some things about Oprah that you will find fascinating. One, she's an incredible listener. So if she says to me, hey, Tim, what do you think about this situation? It's kind of weird, Gene, because then she's going to go like this. And it's not even her talk show. We're just sitting in her backyard. So she's an incredible listener. So I've learned, because I'm a good listener, but I learned to be even a better listener by being around Oprah. Another thing is, she is incredible in the area of fact finding. If she doesn't know it, she's going to figure it out. And because of that, she is a walking library. I'm really telling you, you can push any category and she just starts popping out amazing information.
Yep.
Part of it is her own research. Part of it is what you do for a living. And that is, you're listening to people. You've interviewed so many great people. You've had so many great people on your stages that you learned from, including Tony Robbins.
Yep.
So she's a walking library. So what a great resource to have.
All right, Tim. So we've got Joseph McClendon coming on here in a few minutes. I want to replay one more time in these last few minutes. First of all, Jerry, can you put the download for Tim's book for free? Thank you, by the way.
Of course.
I'm sure you could just send them to Amazon and get your $12.99 per book. So, this is what great people are doing right now, everybody that's listening.
I'm a humanitarian. That's how I started. That's how I'm going to finish. I'm a humanitarian.
I'm seeing so many great stories of, somebody said, well, I don't have a book to give away and I don't have a ton of money to give away. I'm seeing great stories of people sharing toilet paper with their neighbors, or saying, hey, if you're short on food and you're nearby, I'll drive food over to you. So Tema Gali, somebody we had on interviewing shortly after we interviewed you, Super Bowl champ, and has had his trials and tribulations. And I just saw a heartfelt video to say, if you need food, you need toilet paper, you need anything, just private message me. And he was even going to drive it over. Now, he's not doing this for public relations. He's using the power of social media to get the message out. And it still goes back to, there's some sayings, and I want to get your 2 or 3 favorite sayings that comes right back to Zig. And, I learned about this in Sunday school, which is serve others. Service to many leads to greatness. Yeah. What are some of your best sayings here in the last couple of minutes?
Okay. One of my Tim Storey sayings is, sometimes you got to get left before you get right. And so this is what's going on right now, man. We're going through a left. Sometimes you got to get left before you go right. Okay. Another one is, while you're feeling the sting of your setback, God is preparing your comeback. So while you're feeling the sting of don't worry. The Rocky theme is playing in the heavenlies, and God is preparing your comeback, even if it's devastating. So sometimes you got to get left before you get right. While you're feeling the sting of your setback, God's preparing your comeback. Mm-hmm. And then here's my last one. You may not be what you want to be, but thank God you're not what you used to be.
Oh my goodness. You know what? You think you've heard all the sayings in the world, and you just gave me three that I've never heard in that context. And that's why, some people are on this that may not have heard of you before, Tim, and you might have some of your raving 20, 30 year fans on here. I don't know every individual that's on this right now, but this is why, when we say bring the best in the world to the rest of the world, I've brought on people that were experts in podcasting. I've brought on people that were experts in video-based marketing, and the broad audience had never heard of these people. I get a chance to meet yourself and others behind the scenes and say, this is a person that can add value into people that believe in personal development. You're a gem, my friend.
It's a privilege to be with you, Gene. I look forward to doing more things with you on my platform and your platform. And so it's Tim Storey Official. So it's STOREY. And we're giving away our Comeback and Beyond book for free. And Gene, I'm proud of you guys, you and your team. And you are in reset mode, but it's working. It's working. The best is in front of you.
Everybody check that out. I started following Tim a week and a half ago so I could get his updates and his little videos.
I need more members. I only have that many.
Yeah, you need to step up. You're only at 493,000, Tim. You need to step your game up. However, I want to get resources into the hands of people that are taking time out of their lives to invest in themselves. We don't charge anything for these. The only thing I would ask of anybody that's watching right now is grab the email or the text that you got and send this out to everybody you know.
Yes.
Tim gave away his book, and I don't know what you charge on Amazon, probably $19.99 or $12.99, and you can download it right now.
It's a hardcover, so I think it's in the 20s, but it's worth it because as you pay it forward, you never know whose life you're going to impact that could bring change to their entire family.
Hey, Tim, do you ever go back and just read your own book?
No. And I don't usually watch my own interviews either.
I'm going to make sure I've got Brad and John, are my marketing and tech guys for Success Resources. I'm going to make sure that this video, we're able to kind of carve it out by itself. I'll make sure that gets delivered to you. Your wisdom and your insight not only are brilliant, but are needed right now. And we want to do everything in our power to, the word promote is the wrong word, but what we're promoting is goodness. We're promoting, I know positivity gets a bad rap, but optimism, inspiration. What is going to happen and what's going to happen over the next 2 to 3 weeks is unforeseen. And if you're, what you focus on in life and in your mind, what you focus on will expand, good or bad. But the good news is God gave us the freedom to make those conscious choices. And I think that's what you echoed in that reset piece is choose to focus on coming out of this stronger. Choose to focus on contribution to others. Choose to focus on resetting yourself. I mean, I don't know about you, but we've gone through every closet. We've gone through the attic. We've gotten rid of stuff that we just kind of hung on to, old stuff. And we've cleaned every crevice of the house. We got the kids on the projects. And there's some elements of we're getting things done that we just didn't get to. And I try to see the bright side of everything that comes out of this.
Yes, like and if I could just say one word, and that is the word yield. There are times you just need to yield to what's taking place. So if we are quarantined in our homes, even for one more month, I'm going to yield. I'm going to yield. And I'm going to say, why am I here? And what can I learn? And what can I do? So as much as I love traveling the world, man, I was just supposed to go to Athens, Greece, then I was going to another part of Europe, and I was going to bam, boom, boom, bam, bam, bam. Hey, no, I yield. So here I am with you. We're both in houses. I yield.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so Jerry, do we have our next guest coming on? I got yield, embrace change. This was great. Thank you both for the generosity of your time. Thank you, Glow J13. The comment sections are going great. Thank you, Andy, for adding. Tim, can you recap your 7 points really quick? This is from Andy Broadway, both of our mutual friends.
Yes. Hey, Andy. All right, here we go. You got your spiritual side of your life, your physical, your mental clarity of mind, job, finances, family, your social life. And this thing is trying to challenge all seven. So you need to really not get stuck in almost, step up to utmost in your spiritual life, physical life, mental, job, finances, family, social. When the battle's pressing you, please do me a favor and press back.
All right, thank you. I've got people texting me now looking for the link. So I'm looking at my text over here, Tim, and I'm fully attentive to you.
Yeah, so we can prosper, Gene, spiritually, physically, mentally, job, finances, family, social life. We're just having to readjust and readapt how we exercise, how we eat, how we work, how we save, how we bounce back. You're gonna bounce back bigger, better, and more yourself. Some of you got lost and life just tapped you on the shoulder and said, knock, knock, where are you?
Yep.
And the real you is going to emerge.
Just so everybody make sure you're on the Tim Storey official Instagram. Is that your favorite, Tim?
Yeah, I like that. And it shows you all the nice things we're doing. Got a big thing coming up Sunday night where we're going to mail out to quite a few people. I'm interviewing my good friend Randy Jackson from American Idol.
Oh my gosh.
Sherry Shepard from The View. I'll have Tom Bilyeu. I'll have on Joel Marion. And following week, I'll have Ricky Lake. Looks like Deepak Chopra, on and on. And that's just like an inspirational, spiritual thing that I do on a Sunday night. If
you want to send that link, I'll make sure that gets out to our listeners and fans in our database.
I would love that. That's
please share that.
That's super nice. I'll have Joseph from my team who's watching right now send it to you guys right now.
What's up, Joseph? All right, Jerry Maguire, let's go to a recap of Tim, and let's bring on our next inspirational thought leader, knowledge leader. Tim, you're a gem. I appreciate you. Thank you. I'm trying to take notes and still think about the next question because I'm both a fan and, you know, kind of the middleman to make sure that we're bringing great people to our audience. So thank you very much.
It's a privilege. I'll talk to you real soon.
Excellent. Jerry,
awesome.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gene, for that powerful interview. I was taking notes myself feverishly. I have some of those notes here. We would love to hear from you. So if you've got notes, post them in the chat. You know, we want to hear what stood out to you. What were the breakthroughs? What was powerful for you? I'll share some of mine while people start to share theirs here in the chat as we transition to Joseph McClendon soon. I love the concept of this idea that we need to be living an uncommon life right now. So if you think about what is common, especially as it pertains to fear and anxiety, focusing on uncertainty, focusing on problems rather than solutions, and just getting centered in this idea of okay, this is where I'm at right now. Now, what can I do about it? Also, this idea of have to stop living an almost life. That's the idea of the fence sitter in my mind. You got to come down on the other side and decide who you're going to be, who you're capable of being, and then fully actualize. Risk is everywhere right now. So might as well take the risk to be the best that we can be. And this quote, if you don't do something with life, life will do something with you. That was powerful for me. So the other ideas that we've got from the team here, we should be competing with our best, something that Gene shared, competing with our best rather than competing with others. There's not really anything that ever comes, there's nothing good that comes of comparing ourselves to other people. Comparing ourselves against our best or benchmarks that we're looking to achieve is ultimately going to serve us better. We're getting some other feedback here. Almost to utmost was a great quote. Also this idea of feed your faith and starve your doubts. Now, Tim shared what works for him, this idea of going back to Christian scripture, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. Now, you may have different books or spiritual practices that you follow. The key is actually following them and focusing on them more right now. So we've got reset, renew, and redo, the 3 R's. That was extremely powerful as well. I love that. We'll work to capture some of these notes and make sure that we get them out to everybody after this event. Now we're going to be transitioning to Joseph McClendon III, who is joining us. Joseph has joined us on our stages all around the world, speaking in front of probably multiple millions of people around the world at this point. I first had the opportunity to witness one of his speeches almost 10 years ago. And the enthusiasm and the energy that comes from Joseph can be felt even through computer screens, as we learned just 2 weeks ago. He has a PhD in neuropsychology. So what he shares with us is not just concepts, but it's also based in science and fact and practice. So be ready for an extremely powerful interview between Gene and Joseph. We're going to bring them both back on right now. Getting Joseph set up here. He's coming on board. Gene's back, ready to go. We got JM3. He's going to open up his mic and his video here in a second. As Joseph's doing that, we got some more notes continuing to come up here. Sometimes life will knock the shout out of you. That was a great one. And the analogy, here it comes. Joseph's coming online. The analogy of having the wind knocked out of you was powerful for me. I remember that happening like in sports and things like that, but your breath always comes back.
Hey, well, we're bringing Joseph on. All of you that are on right now, this is pure value, positivity, inspiration, optimism, tactic, strategy. Grab the link that got you here, send it out to everybody you know, post it on social media right now. We've got Joe McClendon. If you know this guy, is I have an idea of what's in store. There's no script. There's no 6 talking points. Gene asked this, Gene asked that. I'm going to take your questions for Joseph, and I'm going to ask my own curious questions, because while I get a chance to interview this guy, I'm also a fan, and I'm looking for ideas. I'm looking for, there he is. There's the man of the hour.
Hey, Gene, how are you?
Mr. McClendon, it's always a privilege to even, there's nothing better than face-to-face. I mean, you are one of those humans, and one of those at the pinnacle for me personally is that just when I'm around you, there's an energy that comes off of you that makes me want to be a better man.
Please stop it. Stop.
Yeah, please stop.
Come on, stop, please.
Please stop. No. So for anybody that doesn't know Joseph, Success Resources have been putting events on all around the world, literally around the world. As mentioned, we did over 500 events last year, and a small percentage of those events we do in an arena style. So we'll put anywhere from a couple, 2,000-3,000 up to 10,000 in Russia. Tony had 46,000 in a big stadium. And Joseph, if you've been to any Tony event, you've been to Unleash the Power Within for many years, certainly over 20 years with Tony Robbins, because when I was there, you were the guy doing the health day. Now you do almost half of that seminar. And I'd like you to spend a little time on your story, Joseph. And most importantly, as you go through your story, for those that don't know you, I want to talk about habits, because I can speak for myself to say I probably have not been nearly as disciplined in certain habits, eating, exercise, feeding my brain as I could be. And I want some tools, because I know you're the guy that people go to when they need to get out of their own patterns and beliefs, and you're able to shock them out of it. And I'll just speak for myself, and hopefully I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for the hundreds of people that are on. After you go through your story, I want to talk about habits, changing habits, and belief systems.
Absolutely. Well, first off, let me clean my lens. It looks like it's a little blurry. Okay?
Hey, stop rubbing it in. See, this guy's rich. He must be rich. Stop gloating.
Unfortunately, this has become the United States symbol for 2020. Crazy. Well, Gene, first off, thank you for having me on this. Again, you were actually helping me fulfill one of my goals in life, if you will, and I'll share that in my story. But thank you for what you're doing, because it's in these times that we need what you're doing and what we're doing right here, so people can grow themselves and take advantage of this pause in our momentum. And for those of you that don't know me, as Jerry said, my background, I am by profession a neuropsychologist, and I help people get over fears and phobias and emotional challenges that hinder their lives. I had a practice in Los Angeles for many, many years, and that's where I kind of cut my teeth. But by trade, I'm what's known as an ultimate performance specialist, kind of a high-end life coach, if you will. And Gene asked me to share my story, and it's a long one, so I won't go into the long version. But the Cliff Notes version is, I got started doing what I do now because somebody helped me at the worst times in my life. When I was 17 years old, 3 grown men tried to take my life because of the color of my skin. And it left me feeling hopeless, worthless, and I wound up being homeless for a bit of time. And what changed my life was somebody came to me and gave me a book. And the book was called Think and Grow Rich. And if you haven't read the book, you got to read the book. And I read the book, and I did the exercises. I always tell people this because most people have read the book, but it has things to do in there, which is part of how you get a change. And I did the exercise, and my life started to change. And when I went back to him to thank him for what he had done for me, I asked him, how do I repay you? How do I give back to you? And what he said was, what you do is you do what I've done for you for as many people as you possibly can for the rest of your life. And so that's why I get to be with amazing people like everybody that we have here. And Gene, you have been this vessel of knowledge and this portal for all of us that do this. Tim, by the way, Tim was amazing, wasn't he?
Yes.
I love Tim. So that's what I have the privilege of doing now. And this, you allowing me to do this and be with everybody here is fulfilling that.
So I want to get into what should we be doing with this time we have? And what was your opinion of Tiger King, by the way?
I heard you ask that, and I've been hearing about it for a while. And so my good friend Paula Pecorella said, "You got to watch this. You got to watch it." And so I went down into my little theater room, and I turned it on. And I am sorry, I couldn't watch it. I tried like 15 minutes of it, and I said, no, I couldn't do it. Now, I'm not casting shade on anybody else that loves it. I just couldn't do it because I want to keep only positive stuff coming in right now, which, to answer your question, that's the best thing that you can do right now. And I'll start by saying, Gene, right now, words matter more than ever. They really do. They really matter. And it's important that we all get that because, as you said before, I'm going to give you strategies and tips and tools on how to make a change because that's what's important. It's not just the knowledge. And so words have an effect on our biochemical makeup. They change the blood that flows through our body. We have endorphins and dopamines and these chemicals, adrenaline and testosterone and oxytocin that flows through our bodies at different times. And by certain words, I can make you laugh, or I can make you cry, or I can make you angry. And each one of those emotions carries with it a different set of fluids that are flowing through us. And so the words that we listen to and the words that we speak change the blood that flows through us, which changes how we feel, and then what we'll do. And so instead of calling this thing a pandemic, because it's all over the world, the words are everywhere, a pandemic, and it's a crisis and all of those things. Here's what, and please write this down. Everybody write this down. Let's start calling it something different because those words will make a difference. This is a pause in our momentum. That's all it is. It's a pause in our momentum. We had a trajectory. This country did, this world did, you did, everybody, and it was going a certain way, whichever way it was going, and this is just a pause. And if you know anything about taking a break, and as Tim was saying, be silent for a moment and just take a break for a moment, that's when we grow. Because that's when we get to assess what's going on and we can grow from there. And so that's one thing. Let's call it something else. And then number 2, practice something called fear distancing. And that is this. Instead of, look, there's a news cycle, and I don't want you to be ignorant and block all of the bad stuff out because I want you to be real about it. We have this virus that's going on, there's things going on, and I want you to be real about it, but I also want you to be realistic about it, and that is that this too shall pass, and allow yourself just a small piece of it. There's a news cycle that goes, it's 15 minutes, and it's going to repeat itself over and over again, so there's no need for you to continue to watch that crap. The other thing is, And it's entertaining, and as Tim was saying, it's great. And if Tiger King is your thing, then watch it, and watch a little bit of it. Don't what do they call it? Binge watching it and that kind of thing. Get away and do what you're doing now. Take some time to grow yourself, because it's important that we all take this moment, this pause in our momentum right now, to take advantage of this opportunity to grow ourselves. Because here's what's going to happen, period, end of story. A year from now, we're all going to look back, and we're going to ask one of two questions. You're going to say, what did I do that gave me the advantage that I have right now? What did I do during that time that allowed me to have these advantages in this life that I have right now, that I'm glad I did? Or we're going to go, what should I have done, or what do I wish I would have done that would have given me this advantage? Because right now is an open opportunity for you to capitalize. I call it, with matter of fact, I got this from Jay Abraham from one of the interviews that you did with him last week. And it was, what he said was how to ethically capitalize on this, I call it this pause in time. And Gene, I don't know if you remember that or not, but it was like, that was like on for me, because ethically means that we help other people, that we serve other people, that we step up and we do it. And that's how you're going to grow your business. That's how you're going to grow your life. That's how you're going to take advantage of what's going on right now. And so calling it something different and taking this opportunity to fear distance, and fear distancing means I'll show you how to get the fear out here in a moment, but it means replace it with something else, and replace it with joy, with laughter. It is no secret that when we laugh, remember that I was talking about, that the chemicals that run through us, when we laugh, we produce what I call awesome sauce. And awesome sauce is the endorphins, the dopamines, the adrenalines, and all of those things that are great when we're in the zone. So laughing does two things. Number one, it makes us feel better, puts that go there. But the other thing is, the best defense that we have, and you know this, Gene, the best defense that we have against any disease, let alone this virus, is our own immune system. And laughter bolsters our immune system tenfold. So laugh as much as you can. I put out, on my Instagram, I put out fun stuff all the time, memes and things like that. So look at that stuff, and that's how you fear distance. The other thing is, when I said words matter, write this down. First off, well, let me tell you this, and then I'll tell you to write this down, what to say. This is not the new normal. We're hearing that all over the place. Is this the new normal? The new normal? No, it's not. This is the new temporary. That's what I want you to write down. This is temporary. This too shall pass. I promise you, this will pass. This, in your X amount of time, whatever we're going through is going to pass. I don't have any, a magic cap that I can put on and say exactly when it is, but it will. And when it does, again, those two questions. And so what you're doing right now is going to make the biggest difference. And again, I'm going to show you that in a second. And so those are the components that I want everybody to get. Change your words, change your life. And that's the way it is. Change how you view things, and that's how you change your life.
I'm trying to ask questions and take notes, so bear with me. And hopefully everybody else is taking notes.
Much better than I do.
I'm trying to do both. I'm a fan, and I've got to control this interview and take this in the right direction for the listener. By the way, if you have questions for Joseph, put them in the comment section, and I'll make sure and ask your questions. There's also a Q&A piece.
Yeah, please
So
do.
Joseph, I want to talk about habit.
Yes.
How do we form them? How do we change the ones that we're not so proud of?
Yeah, there are a myriad of ways that we form those habits. They come to us through observation of somebody else, and we take it on and we do it. But any habit is created by repetition. Our minds and our bodies cannot resist repetition. Anything that is repeated over and over again will become a habit. And a habit is just something that we do consistently. What we want to do, and by the way, what we want to do is turn those, so we have bad habits and we have good habits. We want to turn those bad habits into good habits. So anything that see, we're all great at something. Everybody is. And how we are great at it is we've done it over and over again. We tie our shoes, we ride a bicycle, we drive a car, anything that we've done, we speak anything because we've done it over and over again. So the answer to how do we change it is, first off, you've got a number one, and this is always, always important because people start with what they don't want, and when they do, they get more of it. Decide what you want. What is the habit that you want to have? Number one, write it down. I'm a big stickler for writing it down because as you write, you invite. What you don't, you won't. I made that up. What you don't want. So write it down. What do you want? What's the habit that you want? If you smoke cigarettes, what you want to do is you want a habit of exercising, or you want a habit of going and grabbing something else, or reading, or something like that, or doing anything else other than that. Not stopping smoking, because that puts your focus on what you don't want. So write down exactly the habit that you want, and you can find those habits in other people. That's why we're having this now. Gene, you've got such an unbelievable habit of being joyful and positive, and all. You know, every time I see you, you say I light you up. Well, you light me up. I remember when we were doing an event. I think it was in Atlanta, and I had just gotten some terrible news from home that my house, a water line broke in my house and it flooded my whole house. Mm-hmm. And I'd just gotten it like maybe 20 minutes before I saw you. And I walked on, I think it was Atlanta, I don't remember, but I walked into because we were all backstage. I walked in and there you were. And I immediately went, oh, there's the guy, you know, and I felt better. I felt great. And so
I always ask Joseph the same question. You nervous? He's like, oh, it's my first time. I try to bring, do something to make you smile, because, I get it, because you have life going on like all of us. I mean, you're the guy on stage and you're in shape and good looking and all that. I know, stop. But you also have life. You've got, we've all have stuff, right?
Yeah, I've gone through probably the last year and a half, one of the toughest years probably in the last decade for me. But in it, and what I'm going to share with you, how to break those habits, most of us have habits of defaulting to fear. And when we default to fear, that's when we do those things like too much smoking or drinking or anything like that. And I'm not throwing shade on anybody. I'm just telling you that when fear is in the back of our thoughts or even in the front of us, then we default to our bad habits. But the way to eliminate it is this. And again, I keep saying this, write this down, but here's some steps that I want you to do. Number one, look where you want to go. It is critical. That's why I had you write that first down. What do you want to do? What do you want to have? What do you want to be? How do you want to feel? Answer those questions. Dig deep now. You got the time. Yep. Dig deep now and say, what do I want? And once you write that down, then you know what you want. And here's why that's so critical. Wherever we look is where we're going to go and what we're going to feel. I always use that old, it's not a metaphor. I grew up not too far from here in Lancaster, California. And I remember when I was a kid seeing these in the newspaper, on the radio, that people would be driving out there in the middle of nowhere and they'd run into telephone poles. And I couldn't figure out why they would run into telephone poles. The telephone pole is only this wide, but they're, and they're 20 yards apart, but and they did aerial photographs and they showed all the skid marks, and 90% of them went right in the telephone pole. And the reason they run into the telephone pole is because they're looking at it. Their body, even though you don't want it, if you're looking at it, when you have a lot of emotion about something, your body locks into it. And if they lived, they always said the same thing. Last thing I saw was the telephone pole. I didn't want to hit the pole. Right. So that should be evidence for all of us to look where you want to go, and your body will go in line with it. The second thing is interrupt. First off, the second thing is, what do you want to change? That's when you go back and identify the challenge that you want to change. Okay. And so again, I keep using smoking or overeating or anything like that. And what you'll recognize is behind that habit is an emotion. In other words, a lot of people say, and again, I use these examples, I smoke, and we've heard this thing about emotional eating, or whatever your habit is, you have a feeling before you demonstrate that. And that feeling is what motivates it. That feeling is what keeps you through it. So step number one is notice what you want. Now, step number two is notice what you don't want, what you don't want to change. Step number three is experience it now. Experience it now. And what that means is all you got to do is think about it. When I was practicing in Los Angeles, I always say this, it's true, that if you have a fear of dogs and you come into my office, guess what's going to be in my office? Going to be a dog. And the reason being is because I want you to experience it while I'm in front of you. And so I can do something about it. Because otherwise, because people try to change things without doing anything about the existing problem. And it's just layering stuff on and burying it deeper and deeper, and it's always going to rear its ugly head. So how you can change that, how you can, first off, then the next step is to experience it now. Feel it. Just think about it and make yourself think about it. It's the thing that most people shy away from, Gene. But instead, I want you to experience it. And then in that moment, next step is to interrupt your pattern. And what that means is this, and this is golden. This is the nugget right here. And this is when you make the change, when you make the change. And what that means is this. We've all had this experience. You're sitting in your house and you go, I got to go in the kitchen and get an ink pen. You stand up and you go in the kitchen, and there you are in the kitchen going, what the hell did I come in here for? and it's because when you're on the couch, you got your mind and you got your body is plugged into the ink pen in the kitchen. But as soon as you stand up and as soon as you move your body, you do something in neuropsychology we call interrupt your pattern. And 3 things happen. Number 1, you're no longer in that state. Number 2, you're no longer in that focus. And then number 3, you create what's called a scotoma, or a blank spot in your consciousness. That's why you're going, what the hell? And that blank spot is golden because it's a vacuum and it's going, give me something, give me something. And that's when you put something in. And it can be as simple as this. I'll go through the process with you. It can be as simple as this. Big smile on your face. That's it. Because remember, as soon as you smile, you release the awesome sauce inside of you. Isn't this cool? So what you do is cause yourself to feel it. And as soon as you feel it, stand up. Now, fortunately, I am wearing pants today, by the way. I haven't had proper pants on in almost a month now. But you just stand up and shake yourself out. And when you do, you've created that blank spot, because you're no longer what you are now. Even if your brain is going, is this working? Is that Joseph full of crap or whatever? You're no longer there. And your brain is going, whatever. And all you got to do is smile. And what goes in that place is the joy, is the awesome sauce. You do that enough times, and pretty soon you won't be able to get back to that fear. And then is when you start to make the changes. Then you start to pick up the best food. Then you start to make those habits. And then you go back and look at what it is that you want. Last thing is critical, especially for you achievers on the phone or on the here, because I'm gonna kick your ass around for a little while if you don't mind. If you're an achiever, you have what I call the achiever's fatal flaw. And that is, you're so freaking hard on yourselves. You beat yourselves up like crazy, constantly. You know, I'm not good enough, or somebody else is doing this better. I didn't do this. And it's constant, you know. And so what you got to do is you got to praise yourself. You got to, pat yourself on your back, or, me, I have it right here, astitude, shake that ass, whatever you need to do.
Hey, explain that. I've got a lot of people commenting on astitude right now in the comments. What does that mean? I know you can't do a seminar here. We only got you for a short period of time, but what is astitude?
First off, all of us will agree that we've heard the saying before that your attitude will determine your altitude, meaning how you feel and your demeanor, whether you're pessimistic or you're optimistic, will determine what you do in any given moment, and that will be the trajectory of your life. So I've found, and this is, it's silly, but it's science and it's true, that when you, just like when I told you to stand up and move your body, when you move your body, you create those endorphins, that awesome sauce, but there's one part of your body that when you move it, it changes things immediately and it goes to positive, and that is your ass. So it's true. Try it out. Prove me wrong, bitches. Shake your ass. I always tell people, shake that ass, because when you do, Gene, you've been with me. We do, 10, 15,000 people at a time getting up here and, getting it. And when they do, that you can't help but have a great smile on your face. So I created this phrase called astitude.
It is so great, because a lot of, in our big events, you come for, say, Tony Robbins, and then you get the other guy, and that's Joseph. And within 25 minutes of you being on stage, you've got the thousands of people, and even some of the most stodgiest, stiffest people in the world are smiling and moving their bottom. And you see it, at every single, and I've seen you 30, 40 times. I've had the pleasure of, watching you give a talk, and it has the same impact every single time. How do you know that's going to work?
Because it's by design. It's easy. I shouldn't say easy, but a lot of people might look, and I'm not speaking just for myself. I say it from my other colleagues and my friends that are on stage and do things. People look at us and think it just flows through us naturally, but it is well thought out, and it is. Obviously we're better at it because we've done it so many times, but everything that I do and everything that I say has a reason and a purpose. And that it's so to be able to impact people, to influence people in a certain way, I take it because I've had to follow some great, amazing people on stage, not the least of which somebody like Tony Robbins or even a Les Brown or something like that. That you have to be able to hold your own, and you've got to be able to influence that audience in a moment. Otherwise, they'll get up and leave.
Joseph, I had the fortune, Matt Millen's on here, by the way. So
hey, Matt.
Say what's up, Matt?
Yeah.
And he had a big event with his company, Outreach.io, fantastic company. And that was in San Diego. And you were the keynote. And you had just gotten some of the most devastating news.
Yes.
And even at the event organizer saying, Joseph, if you want to cancel this, you can go ahead and cancel it. And you didn't. I don't know how much you want to talk about that. And you and I have never even talked about this. So I'm putting you on the spot.
The news was my father passed. And he passed the night before. And it was devastating to me. And I say this because I want you to get that what I teach and what even what I just taught you works, period. Because the loss of my father was one of the greatest losses in my life. My father was and still is my hero. And what had happened, I'll just tell you this real quick, Gene, and thanks for asking this. I had the opportunity, I was doing back-to-back events. Matter of fact, we did an event with you just a couple of days earlier.
Yep.
I think it was in Denver or something. And I got the phone call that my father was in the hospital. And I had the opportunity to go there and be with my father. But I didn't know it was that bad. And so I talked to my sister. My sister said, I'm going to go, and then I'll let you know. And the last event that I had was the event that you were talking about, Gene. And so I chose not to go. I said, I'll be there in a few days. Well, I didn't go. And a day or so later, my sister said, well, Dad is in and out of consciousness. And I said, put the phone near his head. And so I talked to him for about 45 minutes. And he never did respond. But I said everything that I needed to say to him, that I wanted to say, and that I love you, and I'll be there in a few days. And the next night, he passed away. And when it happened, Gene, I was devastated. And most of it was because I didn't go see him. I wasn't there by his bedside when he passed. And I had the most unbelievable load of guilt. And I cried myself to sleep. I literally have a music studio next door there, and I fell asleep on the floor. And I went to and then I woke up at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and joy came over me. And it's odd to say that, but joy came over me, and I knew why it was. It was because of the things that I teach people I do myself. I won't teach theory. I won't tell people to do something I don't do myself. And I've worked on the things that I say on my emotion, how to quickly take myself out of a bad emotion and put me into a better emotion. And my brain started to rationalize and look at other things. And what I realized is my father was, I have my beliefs, I have my tenacity, I have all that stuff from my father. And my father was always very physically fit as well. He taught it to his children. And, but when he passed, he was down to 90 pounds. And my sister had told me about it and everything. And I realized that I wasn't supposed to see him in that way. So I don't have that image of him in my mind. I have the image of my father. My son and I had gone to see him the summer just before, and he was still vibrant and everything. And I realized in that moment, and so I called my sister and I told her about it. And I said, here's what, and I told her exactly what I'm saying. And she goes, well, you want to hear something? And you said, and I said, what? And she goes, when you talked to him on the phone, he hadn't opened his eyes for like 24 hours. And when you talked to him on the phone, his eyes opened up and he smiled. Mm. And so he heard it all. And then he had passed away not too long after that. And so my brain has the image of his smile and the image of him and all of that stuff. And that's what's with me. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sad. I mourn, I miss my father and all those things. And it was something that because of the things that I teach and I practice, listen, there's no fearless people. There just aren't. Right. There are people, because everybody has fear. But there are people who have less fear. And I don't mean less amounts of fear, because that's all relevant. We all have different amounts. I just mean they spend less time in it. And you can train your brain to quickly turn fear into power, fear into joy, fear into whatever. And when you do, then that's in the back of your mind, and that's what's moving you forward. You have more options. You have better hindsight and foresight, and you'll operate better. So even as we are right now, that's what I said at the very beginning of this. Let's change those words. Let's change how we move our bodies. You got to move. You got to move while you're here. Get up and walk around, jump up and down. You know, I have this chair here. You can't see it, but I bounce around all the time and things like that. Move your body all the time. And you be the mentor. You take these things that Gene has been so generous, and Success Resources have been so generous in putting out for free. And you take this stuff and you be the mentor to your family and so on and so forth. Blame it on Gene. I do. I do. You know what I heard at Gene's show the other day? And I go, I learned this. And you don't have to be the expert, but you can share this stuff as well.
I watched you on that same day in San Diego give probably, I don't want to call it a performance, but you gave one of the best talks you ever gave. And I've seen your main talk 20, 30, 40 times, but there was something different about you that day. And you know, I just want to acknowledge you for that you know, because they had 400 people in the room, and I remember Matt going out, you know, we gave him the option, and he said, I'm going to deliver. And it's a classic example. You've heard me say this, if you've been on all these calls or some of these, if I have to take it back to this saying that service to many is what leads to the greatness.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you have to be, if you're watching this right now, you don't have to be the public speaker or the best-selling author. Service to many means your neighbor. Service to many means making those phone calls and using this beautiful technology called FaceTime to put faces together and say hi. And, you know, this is the time to do that. What are some of your favorite sayings, Joseph? What are some of the one-liners that, you know, you've heard tens of thousands of, but there's always 2 or 3 that each specific person hangs on to?
Yeah, this one isn't a one-liner, but it can be. Well, the one-liner is, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up that makes a difference. Okay. My saying is this: it's not how many times you get knocked down, and it's not how many times you pick yourself up that's going to determine how far you're going to go. It's what you do while you're down there. The difference. So when you're down, which we are right now, that's where the world is right now. That's why we're doing what we're saying right now, is let's take this opportunity to grow ourselves as human beings. But while you're down there, here's the silly part of the saying, is while you're down there, figure out what knocked you down, and then make a plan so the next time you get back up, duck. That's one. And the saying that life is exactly what you dare to make it, and fortune favors the bold.
Yes, that's right. Okay, we got a couple more minutes before Nick comes on. The last time we did this, a week ago Friday, you shared your morning routine, and I'm proud to say that I took that and I wrote it down. And can you share your morning routine?
Absolutely.
Like all these. Here's another great saying. The things that are easy to do are easy not to do.
Yes.
Everything you shared were easy to do things. And I can, as one, say it's made a positive impact. Can you share this with these guys? Tactical things you can do, everybody. Write this down. Maybe somebody on the team can put these steps in the chat box so everybody can get these. What are your morning routines? Because this is all about habit, right?
Yeah, it is. And this is how you develop a habit, by the way. And this is how you can do the things that I said just a little while ago, but you can do it in a quick order. So here's the first thing I do. First off, sleeping in is not, you've done enough of it. Now it's time to get up and attack the day and get as much out of this day as you possibly can. Because everybody else is spending time on the couch and Netflixing and you know, sleeping in. You get up early. And if you're not an early person, I'm going to give you my routine, and this routine is going to help you get up earlier. Number 1, start before you go to sleep. Put a container of water on your nightstand right next to your bed.
That's pretty hard. That's pretty hard.
It's difficult. It's really difficult. A glass of water or a container of water right next to your nightstand. And then set your alarm a half hour earlier than you would normally get up. A half hour earlier. And then when you wake up, you're going to go, oh, screw Joseph. gross. You know, I don't want this or whatever, you know. And blame Gene, by the way. And so as soon as you do, all you have to do is drink that water. Drink it, okay? Because 3 things are going to happen, and it's going to be glorious. Here's what happens. Number 1, you're going to get energy because water conducts electricity, and your body's going to have that conductive so that you start to feel the energy. Number 2, because you have that energy, you're going to wake up and you're going to want to do something. I'll tell you what to do here in a second. Number 3, you got to get out of bed really soon because you got to pee.
Right.
And once you're out of bed and that energy is flowing through you, then it's game on now. And then number 4, pat yourself on the back and praise yourself for having done it. Now, once you've done that, now what I do is I get up. The first thing that I do is I try and, first off, in my brain, I put a big smile on my face. And as silly as this is, remember why? You smile, you send endorphins, you send awesome sauce through your system, okay? And then the second thing that I do, once I have the smile, is I start to think, what am I grateful for? What are the things that I'm grateful for? You know, just anything you can possibly think of. And then I try and touch my toes. Now in the very beginning, I'm a pretty flexible guy, but in the morning I can't because I've been laying prone for a while. But I reach over and I touch my toes. And as I'm doing this, I'm saying things out aloud. I say to myself, at last, the past has passed. I've broken free and won. And now it's time to love myself and really have some fun. A bold new world is on the rise for all of us to have. And I'm the one. Yes, I'm the one. A beacon that lights the path. Now, you don't have to say that, but say something, because I said at the very beginning of this, words matter. The words that you say to yourself, about whatever, make that happen. And that's the easiest morning routine. I got other things that I can do, you know, in terms of eating and things like that. But that, you know, you do that and I promise you things are going to happen because you have this opportunity. You got the time to do it now. There's where you're building a great habit.
You know, the other thing you said, Joseph, that you skipped over was I set an appointment on my phone at 10 p.m. at night. So I get a little thing that comes up and says, reminder, put your water by your bed.
Yeah.
And then I put pray, read for 15 minutes, tell Jennifer I love her.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, but these little reminders certainly help me.
This is the greatest tool for conditioning your brain that we have, and it's around us all the time. You know, Siri will do anything you ask her to do. You know, she'll remind you, she'll do all of those things, and it's glorious.
Hey, Joseph, you mentioned, and Andy mentioned that you have, Tim Storey gave away his book, so I'm going to challenge you. What do you want to give this audience?
I do. I have something, I call it beyond mentoring. You know, one of the things we talked about it last time, it's important that you allow yourself to be mentored and you be the mentor as well. Take what you learn and pass it on to other people. Yes. And so I have a program that's called Beyond Mentoring, and I won't go into it. You'll get the information about it, but I'd like to give to all of us for free. And if you go to my, and it's really, really simple. And by the way, usually we charge for this, but this will be free to you, and you can try it out. But it is, if you go to my, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can go to, well, no, I'm just going to tell you this way because the link will be up. It's not free yet. It's going to take a couple of hours because Andy, my beautiful business partner, is setting it up to give away to you for free. But if you go to my Instagram page, which is I am Joseph McClendon. That's McClendon. I am Joseph McClendon. There it is right there. And if you click on the link below my profile, it'll take you, I think it says Beyond Mentoring, but you'll search it, you'll find it. And you can sign up for it. And it's just something I'm going to be in your face a couple times a week, mentoring you, showing you what to do, and teaching you some of these things as well. It's pretty comprehensive, and it's really easy, just like the things I just gave to everybody now. And what I want you to know is that my outcome is to make sure that you get some information while you're in this pause right now, that you can change your life.
So I am Joseph McClendon, and you see that great picture of this man right there. And we want to get resources in your hands, everybody. There we go. So Instagram is on the chat. So if you're driving right now, you can probably play back this recording. And Joseph, you'll get the recording here. And what are they going to get? So I see, is this a $1 trial? What is it?
Well, it was $1 trial. And if you like it, then it's only $9 a month. Because here's my belief. if people don't pay, they don't pay attention in general.
It's true.
So, I didn't want to, overwhelm everybody. So it's like $1 and then $9, because this is my way of doing what I said in the very beginning. Somebody challenged me to give back as much as I can. And so what you're going to get is this. I believe it's every 3 or 4 days, I'm going to send you a video, and it's a very short video, very simple video of just like we're talking here, something for you to do, because it's not people that start stuff. It's not people who want to do something. It's people who do something. So you're going to get results by what I'm going to do. Every single one of them has an actionable item for you to do. I'm not going to overwhelm your life. It's just something really simple that you can do. And what you'll find out is this changes your momentum, changes your trajectory, so that at the end of this pause in our momentum, you look back and you go, I'm a badass. Unbelievable.
I loved it. Just as a quick recap of this, here's what stood out to me is 1 year from now, you're going to look back and you're going to ask yourself, give us those 2 questions. Your free resources are online right now. I want everybody to grab that. This is about, we're not charging anything for this. We got a couple hundred people on. The only thing I ask is grab these links and get them on your social media feed right now. We're halfway through today's session. Tomorrow we bring in John Assaraf, one of the most renowned brain experts, and
amazing.
Change your brain, change your life type guy. We're going to keep bringing these great resources to everybody, but you got to, tune in. So Joseph, the 2 questions. 1 year from now, you're going to look back at and ask yourself. So April 2nd, 2021, we're all going to, we're going to arrive somewhere. We might as well determine that direction. The questions you're going to ask yourself are what?
Number 1, what did I do during those times that allowed me to have the life that I have right now, that allowed me to prosper the way that I am right now, that allowed me to help so many other people? What did I do? The second question is, what do I wish I would have done so that I would have been further ahead, so that I would have been able to help other people, so that I would have been able to prosper and give back? It's one of 2. Determine what that question is going to be and do something about it now.
I remember listening to Tony Robbins talk, and he said, the worst emotion we can experience is the emotion of regret.
Exactly.
Because there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
You can't do about anything that happened, but I'll add to this. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. You can't change what happened, but you can change how you feel about it. And so I agree with him. Regret is a terrible, terrible feeling. And you can change how you feel about it, because if you don't, then you're going to repeat that thing over and over again. Because remember, if you're looking at what you don't want, that's going to show up again in your life. So what you do is you can change that regret. You can change the process that I just gave you, and you can change that regret to something that I learned something from. And that's how we grow.
Joseph, always spreading love, motivation, and inspiration in all of our lives while shaking that ass. I'm just reading these real time. I'm not filtering here. Next year, 2/4/21, see you in UPW. That's Unleash the Power Within. What do you learn? What do you learn from an event? That's a great question. While we're bringing on Nick, and while Joseph's answering these last couple questions, Jerry's going to do a recap. Grab this Zoom link, post it on Facebook, post it on Insta, post it on LinkedIn, send an email, text your relatives and friends.
Yeah.
Because the next guy coming up, Nick Santonastasso.
Oh, Nick is amazing. I love that.
He's going to really help us understand what it's like to overcome some challenges. And I'm not going to spoil it. And I want to stay focused on Joseph. Thank you for the resources. I know I'm going to grab all this stuff, and I'm already on your list. So I already get this stuff, and I'm already following you on Instagram. But if you're on Instagram, follow this cat, because, you just never know when that great, Joseph's just walking, you're walking with your son a couple weeks ago, and you just grabbed your phone and started talking.
Yeah.
What I love about Instagram, by the way, is we get to see these stars and these people that have done amazing things in real life. And the best breakthrough I've had through this is just realizing that while Joseph has best-selling books, he's been in movies, he is on the biggest stages in the world, he plays your guitar, he's a dad, and you get to see him in his stocking cap and, probably, unshaven and,
it's called a do-rag.
Okay, sorry. My kids call it a beanie. I call it a stocking cap. That may display my age. And, You call it a do-rag. I think net, it covers up your hair because you didn't have time to comb it in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Joseph, thank you. You are a blessing to this world. Jerry's going to do it. Wait a minute. Thank you for sharing. Where are the links from S Green and S Green? If you go to the chat box, the links are there, and get on and grab that. Follow Joseph. And I think one of the major things I took away from this is you don't have to have a best-selling book and be the great speaker and be in the movies to go make an impact on others. You can do it on your neighbor. You can do it through FaceTime and making sure you're reaching out to your loved ones that aren't physically near you, and we can come out of this stronger. Absolutely. 1 year from now, we're going to arrive somewhere.
Come out of this stronger. That's the name of the game. That's what we want. Can I tell everybody to something? Obviously, kindness is critical right now. Be kind to other people. There are people that are out there that can't do some things for themselves right now. I have neighbors that are across the street that are elderly, and I went over there a couple days ago and I said, listen, do you guys need anything? And the woman broke down in tears. She goes, nobody has cared. Nobody has reached out to us. And so because I was able to go, and I do that, I go to the grocery store and I get them some food and so on and so forth, just a little bit. You be the mentor. You be the person that's kind to other people. Just a phone call to people that you haven't talked to for a while and goes, hey, how are you doing? You know, let me tell you something that I learned, and blame it on Nick. I mean, I'm sorry.
Blame it on Gene.
Blame it on Gene. You know, I learned this, you know, from Gene and blah, blah, blah. And just you be that one that gives that information out.
You are a blessing to this world, Joseph. Thank you. I want to get your updates on Insta and Facebook and get your resources. Thank you so much. Jerry, let's do a recap and let's bring on Nick. By the way, everybody, while this recap is happening, get this thing posted everywhere. I want to fill this thing up. We have room for 1,000 and we're just over 200 right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joseph. Appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
Me too. Thank you, Jerry. Have a good day.
All right. So hopefully everybody feels the same way that seemingly most people do. And this is just another awesome session with Joseph. What's powerful about what he shares and what we've heard from others is it's not just inspiration and motivation, but it's the actual strategies and the tactics. If you listen for the things that he shared, the 2 steps and the 5 things when you wake up in the morning, those are the habits that can become superpowers. But first, we have to make the conscious effort to create them. So before we bring on Nick, we want to talk key takeaways. So what are the things that stood out to you? Put them in the chat. What were your breakthroughs? What were the powerful, the metaphors, the ideas, the concepts, the strategies, the tactics that stood out to you? I'll share some of mine. I love the language around pandemic. I was getting tired of hearing that word. Yes, there are challenges, but this idea of this is the new normal. No, it's the new temporary, but especially this phrase, this is a pause in our momentum. That's a fundamental shift. You know, we've had some comments in the chat here and Joseph alluded to it. The idea that words have power and we need to consciously choose our words because of how they affect our feelings and our thoughts, which turn into our actions. So the way that we use language associated with what we're challenged with at any given time is going to affect how we ultimately take action, which comes back to a couple of the questions that Joseph shared earlier. What questions are we going to ask ourselves, you know, a year from now or whatever else? And it is, you know, what did I do that gave me this advantage? So imagine it's a year from now. What did I do that gave me this advantage? Or are we going to be asking the question, what should I have done? What do I wish I had done? We got some feedback in the chat here. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. Extremely powerful. You know, the meaning that we associate with things that have happened in our lives, we control that ultimately. And being able to modify regret as a result, reinforcing the fact this is the new temporary and this is a pause in our momentum, some more feedback there. And then his bedtime routine, which I did post it, morning routine / bedtime routine. I did post it here in the chat. So go back, grab those 5 or 6 steps. I too tried that. I always try to wake up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning around that time. And I found myself slipping further and further in the past couple of weeks, set my alarm 30 minutes earlier, and I made it up at 4:30 in the morning. And I had the glass of water, my body was moving, it was awesome. So take advantage of those tactics. Praise yourself, another one from Christina. All right, we are going to make a transition here. We're getting ready to bring on Nick Santonastasso, who has an amazing story, and we're going to introduce you to him via video. But before we do that, what I want you to kind of wrap your mind around is the three things that Nick had facing him in terms of challenge at some point in his early development and also as a child and as a teenager, and how he ultimately transformed those things into superpowers and overcame them. Physical challenges, mental challenges, emotional challenges associated with the physical challenges, all of which he overcame as a result of what he chose to focus on, what he chose to pursue, and the actions that he ultimately decided to take. So to introduce Nick to our group here on Meetings with the Masters, we are going to play a quick highlight reel so you have an idea of exactly who this person, Nick Santonastasso, is.
The doctors classified me with hand-heart syndrome. Are you ready to challenge the impossible?
Welcome back to Max Out with Ed Milet. This man to my left, I think, is one of the most inspiring people on planet Earth today.
Welcome to Beijing.
At the time of my birth, I was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. And out of the 12, 8 of them have passed away due to undeveloped organs.
Like any other 12-year-old, Nick Santonastasso enjoys football, skateboarding, and playing video games. And while these may sound like simple everyday activities, for Nick, they are anything but. He is one boy who defies the odds.
It's not about how many times we fall down. It's about how many times we get up and keep moving forward.
And an unbelievable public speaker, for the record, that you're going to hear about in a minute. But this is Nick Santonastasso.
Have you ever felt like you were invisible? Have you ever felt like you weren't good enough? Raise your hand if at least one time in your life you said, why me? Look around the room. It's everyone. We all get a taste of that victim mentality, the why me? Why do I have to be born like this? Why do I have to be born with no legs and one arm? Why do the kids have to make fun of me? Why do I have to go through these challenges? What I've realized over the 23 years of my life, it's not the physical body that holds us back, but it's the mindset. The biggest disability you can have is a bad mindset.
Your spirit and attitude towards the difficulties in life is the key to all kinds of success.
A little kid without limits who can teach a lot about overcoming obstacles.
Well, I know, anything's possible.
They gave me a 30% chance, and when I was born, the first thing they did was do tests of my organs. And it came back 100% healthy, that the only thing were affected were my limbs. All my organs were 100% healthy. And so, that's one of the reasons why living in a state of gratitude, is so important. And I shouldn't be here. So, every day we live, every day we're alive is an amazing day.
You became a wrestler when you only have one arm to fight with.
I want you to embrace the journey.
You became a bodybuilder when you only have one arm to exercise.
And a security guard comes up and he's like, can Dwayne meet you? And I'm like, yeah, please. And he's like, I'm a big fan. And I'm like, dude, I'm a big fan of you. And I was like, I'm gonna do what you did. And he's like, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, dude, you're The Rock. People knew you for college football, flag football, and then you went into WWE. And then you just took over every industry, bro. You're crushing everything. I said, I'm gonna do what you did. And he said, Nick, you're right. Because people like me and you, they put us in any industry and we adapt. We adapt and we overcome. And he's like, you're gonna do it. And talk about a moment of confirmation for me that I was doing the right thing. And after that, he's like, can I grab a picture? And another fangirl moment. I'm like, dude, of course I can grab a picture. I love you. Embrace the hardships.
You became the cover model of New York Fashion Week when you don't have legs to walk on the stage.
It's not can't, but how?
You're the role model to not only the American kids, but also us, the teenagers in China. I hope we can be as unbeatable as you in the future.
Wow.
I have a sweet spot for China because, people aren't exposed to people like me. So, people here that they're not used to disabled people, they're institutionalized or aborted, or, I always call myself a shifter of perspectives. And so if I can go out there and just blow people's minds and have them look at the world differently, then that's what I'm here to do.
It's people don't have their mind right, Ed. It's people are just like, oh my God, I can't do this, I can't do that. No, you're truly capable of anything. You put limits on yourself. The only limits you have are the ones you put on yourself.
So I think one of my biggest fears is just not doing enough in life. And so when I die, like I said, I just want people to know that I gave everything. I put it all on the line for people. I'm a unicorn, man. I gotta use my unicorn abilities to help the world before I go. You know, the energy you put out, it comes back tenfold when you try to help people. So that's all I wanted to do was help people.
Oh.
And so, yeah, just want to make people laugh.
You inspire me. And I know that today you just started the journey of inspiring even millions more people, bro.
Stacy and Mike, you have raised a great boy, and I don't know where he's going to end up, but it's going to be great, great, great.
We are! We are! We are! We are!
I wish for some legs. I'm just kidding.
Welcome, everybody. Nick Santonastasso to meetings with the Masters. He's joining Gene right now. We're going to have a killer 45 minutes with Nick.
Hey.
Hey, man.
How you doing?
What's up with the mustache? Where'd that come from?
This is from quarantine. You get a little bored. Had to switch it up a little bit, you know?
Brother, it's good to see you again, man.
How you doing? Yeah, I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for having me and doing this for the people.
I was just reflecting back on when we first met, and as a lot of people know, everybody who's a speaker wants to be on our stages at Success Resources. You know, we're one of the only companies that can literally put a speaker in Europe, Asia, Australia, South America, US, and Canada. And I remember your name and your information coming across my desk. I'm like, a guy that wants to interview, wants to get on stage. And I'm like, and I get a lot of these requests. And here was the lineup. It said, best-selling author, professional speaker. It said bodybuilder, actor, and model and supermodel. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Here, you know, join the crowd. And we agreed to do an interview because of Andy Broadway, who's, I think Andy's on here, a great man, that said, hey, Gene, trust me, you want to interview Nick. Great, no problem. And then you came in and I was shocked at, it didn't say no arms or no legs. You have one arm or two arms, or walk us through that whole situation.
Yeah. So for those who are listening, I was born with no legs and one arm with one finger on it. And that was a result of being diagnosed with Hanhart syndrome. And what Hanhart syndrome is a super rare genetic disorder that either leaves the babies with undeveloped limbs or undeveloped organs.
Yeah, and so we do our interview, and it was Los Angeles, and like we just had Gene Simmons, and we had Jay Abrams. I mean, the titans of rock and roll, the titans of marketing, and we caught each other in that moment. And you gave one of the most inspiring talks, you know, just right off the cuff. And you know, at what point did you start to? You said something like, you stopped looking at your disability and you made that into your ability. And you talked about some of the things your parents did by not making it easy for you. Can you go into that? Let's just jump right in. And there's no, by the way, everybody, there's no script here. He didn't send me 5 bullets of questions to ask. This is real and raw. So I want to get your questions, audience members, in the chat or go to the Q&A. And, you know, this guy is, God put him here for a reason, and I want to hear about some of the brilliant things your parents did.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Mom, because she's here. She's working from home, so she's dialed in. So hi, Mom. And so you know, I always say that my parents are the superheroes. I'm just the offspring. And what I mean by that is, as parents, you're cultivating your kids' mindset. You know, you're cultivating your kids' mindsets through your actions, through your words, the way you show up, the way you answer the phone, get pissed off in traffic. I mean, all that stuff goes into play in cultivating a kid's mindset. Because although you don't think they're watching, they're always listening, right? And so from an early age, you know, my parents sat me down and said, Nick, you're born with no legs and one arm, and this doesn't change. And what's also not going to change is the world. The world outside is not going to change for you. And so that means that you have to adapt your whole entire life to the world, because it's not going to change. And so from an early age, they sat me down and they would put my clothes in front of me. And they'd be like, all right, Nick, figure it out. And they would give me verbal suggestions, but they would never do the work for me. And so, you know, I'd fumble with my clothes and I'd try to put my shirt on. I'd fall down over and over again, and I'd finally succeed. And then, my next challenge came and they would put me in my high chair with food in front of me and say, Nick, figure it out. And, there's a couple things that they were doing. One, they were getting me comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is massive, because I think nowadays, not only adults, but if the younger generation, if they're not comfortable with uncomfortable situations, they just give up, they quit, because they're not used to that conflict, right? They're not used to being in uncomfortable situations. But the other thing they were doing, which is super valuable, not only to kids, but entrepreneurs, humans, is they got me solution oriented. They got my brain operating at a solution-oriented mindset. What I mean by that, instead of reacting to problems, instead of freaking out and getting flustered, my brain was always designed to say, well, what's the solution? How can I do this with what I have? And in my case was an extreme example of no legs, one arm, right? But whether you're a kid, whether you're a human, an entrepreneur, if you can provide solutions, that's massive value when everybody else is reacting to the situation.
Yeah. How do you translate that into what's going on now? Like you said, the world's not going to change. You said that, it's what you're going to do about whatever the outside circumstances are, but how has this impacted you? How has it impacted your routines? And how are you looking at every single day, knowing that if you turn that TV on, you can get pulled down pretty quick. I don't care what superhero you are. If you watch the news enough, you can get pretty depressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I by the way, I love Joseph. I love Joseph. I loved him, but
he's all right.
One of the, I just love that man. So I just wanted to give him that shout out. And so, it really comes down to what you focus on. The quality of your life really comes down to the things that you are focusing on. And what I mean by that is an extreme example is me, right? Like every day I can wake up and focus on the fact that I'll never become a professional soccer player, which will result in a very not so good quality of life. Or I can focus on my individual strengths, my superpowers. What am I good at? What can I, the things that I can control in my life. But for this whole Corona thing, just like you and Success Resources, our business mostly runs off of events, right? In-person events. And so right now things are on a shutdown. And, it's also the meaning you attach behind this, because the majority of people are freaking out, which I'm not taking away from the seriousness of this, right? But you need to focus on the things you can control. Maybe instead of this being a pandemic, like you said, be conscious of your language, but maybe this is a moment for you to focus on the weaknesses in your business. Maybe this is a time to focus on the weaknesses in your family. This is a time for you to be more present with your community, with your family, or, bringing your team or your business into Zoom meetings and connecting that way. But what are the things right now that you can keep evolving? Because what's going on right now is that people's structure and their habits are falling apart because they're home, they're working from home. And that's why one little tip that you can do to break out of that pattern, you get dressed every day. You get dressed every single day, just like you're going to work, because not only for your kids, because they're going to say, oh, mom and dad are in the same sweatpants for the last 3 days, it's okay to slow down. But for yourself, you want to get into that suit. You want to get into your uniform so you feel as if you're going to work and you're moving forward, because right now structure is falling apart in families, in business, in your habits. And so you need to get dressed like you're going to work every day and like you're moving forward. And so for us as a company, and I'm sure for Success Resources, we have been veering more towards the digital side of things. And to be fully transparent with our business, like we're in digital. Like our email list is very small. Like we just started like diving into sales funnels and all these things. And so instead of looking at this a time of like, oh my God, a bunch of revenue just fell through the cracks and we're not going to have that. How can we use this time to strengthen our weaknesses? How can we use this time to fill the gaps that really are going to be beneficial when we come out of this, right? When life goes back to normal, now we're going to have a muscle of the digital side of things. And so one of the things that we've created was Junior Victorious, which was like right now is a time where kids are not in school. And so the mind is a garden. And if you don't consume the right content, weeds are going to grow, right? And so we wanted to create not only for the Corona time, but a way where I can be the mindset coach for the youth. Every Sunday I roll out a video. The parents have a private Facebook community, but that's the service that we're going to provide, especially in the time when kids have all this free time home. You want to make sure that they're consuming the right content, because like you said, there's a lot of negativity on Instagram and social media. And, that goes down to your focus, so like, things are bad, but what people also don't realize is that fear lowers your immune system.
I did not know that.
Fear lowers your immune system drastically. And so is it a move that media is pushing fear into the people? So more like, I don't want to get down this because it's very controversial, but fear lowers your immune system. And so don't become fearful. Just take it day by day and the things that you control. You know, now that you're home, just focus on your brain, focus on your family, being more present with your family. Like, that's the focusing on, because you don't want to be like the majority. You don't want to be, you know, losing your habits and your rituals and falling off track. Focus on being a better human each and every day. So when you come out of this, you're way ahead of the game.
Nick, I follow you on Instagram, and you probably need to step it up. You only have 500,000 followers, but I get inspired every time I watch it. I want to make sure everybody sees, you know, what his page looks like here, and we'll make sure that's posted in the links, but I get inspired. I saw you lifting weights. I see you with your beautiful girlfriend. I saw your Halloween pic. I mean, dude, you're doing a great job on social, but I turn to you for the inspiration, because I see what you're doing and lifting weights. I mean, look at this guy's all shredded up here. Check that dude out.
Yeah.
What motivates you? And I know you got some slides you want to share, and I'd love to be able to.
We're good. We'll just jam.
Yeah, I want to see some of the slides, because I had a chance to see you on stage, and I want to get you into flow and deliver massive value to these people.
Yeah. So with the bodybuilding thing, I want to come from the 15, 16, 17-year-old mindset, Nick. And what I mean by that is, I think we can all agree in middle school and high school, for kids, it's probably the most judgmental times of our lives, right? And so for me, one of my biggest suicidal triggers was females. And the reason being is because humans crave love. You know, whether you're a guy, girl, we all crave love. And I felt that I didn't receive the love from females that my friends were getting, or my girlfriends were getting from guys, whatever it may be. And so I was more focused on, what is this confidence thing? Is it acquired? Like, I wasn't born with legs, I don't have confidence. Or is it something that you acquire, right? And so what I've realized is confidence is something that you acquire, and it's a muscle. And how you build confidence, a synonym for confidence is self-integrity. And what I mean by that is, as humans, myself, yourself, all of us watching, we're all guilty of committing to things and not following through. We're humans, we're not perfect, right? But there's an underlying issue that we don't realize. Every time that we commit to something and we don't follow through, we diminish our view. We diminish the way we view ourselves, and we diminish our self-integrity. And the most important relationship you can have in this world is yourself. And so how we build confidence is, step one, you commit to things. That could be a big thing. That could be a small thing. That could be reading a book, a podcast a day, waking up 30 minutes earlier, going to the gym, whatever it may be. But when you commit to those things and you follow through, you not only physically applaud yourself or attempt, but you mentally applaud yourself. Good job, Nick. Good job, Gene, whatever it may be, because that's going to build your self-integrity and the relationship you have within yourself. And so that builds confidence. And so here I am in school, and I'm like, I had an honest conversation with myself. I said, Nick, you go to school and you put on this fake mask, and you're not comfortable with your body. What are you going to do to build your relationship, to fall in love with your body? Because I'm 23 years old, and for the majority of my life, 19, 20 years of my life, I thought being born with no legs and one arm was the most disgusting thing that ever happened to me, right? And to that as well. But I was looking for a way out. And so I'm from New Jersey, and wrestling was a big deal. My older brother was a wrestler, all my best wrestlers. And my thought process as a 17-year-old kid was, if I could become a wrestler, I'll be with my friends, I'll be labeled athlete, which they said I couldn't do, and maybe girls will like me because I'm an athlete, right? That's my thing. And so this is transitioning into the bodybuilding. I'll speed it up. But I had a little bit of a challenge, and my challenge was this arm, which we call a potato now. It looks like it was 5 inches longer than it is now. My bone was growing faster than my skin. So it was like your finger, but it was super sensitive. And the bottom line is, if I would have hit my arm, my bone would have came my skin. And so, committing and following through, I came home one day and I said, Mom and Dad, I want to be a wrestler. My parents were like, oh no, wrestling's the most physical sport. God forbid you hit your arm, you bust through your skin. What are you going to do then? And Nick, being solution oriented, I looked at my parents and I said, can we cut my arm off? And they said, what? I said, yeah.
Okay, you never shared this before.
And they said, can we cut my arm off? And they said, what? They said, first off, Nick, the right word is amputate. You're so aggressive with your words. And I said, okay, can we amputate my arm? Can we do something about it? And the reason why my parents were so accepting of me amputating my arm is because, to give a little context, when I was born, the doctors didn't even want my parents to have me. And then I was born, and the doctors wanted to put screws in my quads and lengthen my bones. And my parents were like, no. Or they wanted to chop my finger off because they said it was useless and I'd be better off without it. There were so many things that the medical industry wanted to do to me. And my parents' answer was, that's not my choice. That's my son's choice, and he doesn't have a voice yet. And so the moment that I brought forth this solution to better the quality of my life, my parents jumped on that opportunity. And so my sophomore year, my parents went ahead and scheduled the appointment for me to amputate my arm. And so, I went through that process. I came back to school. I became a wrestler. But that instilled confidence in me because I became a wrestler. I was with my friends. I was labeled as an athlete. And I got my butt kicked. And it was another way for me to go into the wrestling room and say, guys, beat me up. Because no growth comes from the comfort zone. And if you hold back on me, if my parents held back on me as a kid too, I would have got smacked in the face by reality at an early age. And so the same principle applies. I told my friends, I said, beat me up, because if you hold back on me in the wrestling room, when I go out 1v1, I'm going to get my butt kicked because I'm not going to know what it feels like to go hard. Right. And so that physicalness, we always talk about state, we're all around the Tony Robbins world and the, the psychology of moving your body, especially in times of being home. That moving my state, got me into a better thought process, right? So being a wrestler, I was becoming active. I was becoming an athlete. I got a little pep in my hop, right? And so that started building confidence. And so that transition in the pranking and the bodybuilding. But the reason why bodybuilding really came into my life is because I was coming off another career of pranking that didn't go the way I wanted to go. It didn't fulfill me the way I wanted to go. And
a year of what? Say that again.
I was a professional prankster.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Do tell. I mean, you're glazing over some of these things, and we've only been together a few times.
Your time.
No. We got a full 200, almost 230 people on here right now watching you. So tell us these stories. I think, and give me some feedback, everybody. Do you like to hear these, or do you want them to go into a speech? I don't think you do. I don't. I want to hear some real juice.
I was a senior in high school in 2014, and the app Vine came out. And Vine was an app that was released in 2014 where you could post 6-second videos. So you had to be as creative as you can in 6 seconds. And so I have a method behind all my madness, right? And so I wanted to create a way where I can not only make people laugh, but I knew what it felt like to be an unconfident teen. I knew what it felt like to be a suicidal kid. I knew what it felt like to be uncomfortable in my skin. And so if I can create a way where kids can look at me and go, wow, look how happy Nick is in his body. Maybe I could be a little bit more comfortable in mine, right? I wanted to create a creative way. And so I'm looking around and I said, well, there's no guy with no legs and one arm crawling around as a fake zombie scaring people. If I do it, people are going to catch on and they're going to like it, right? And so Nick's a senior in high school. I put fake blood on my face. I put fake blood on my clothes, and I set out to my local Walmart in New Jersey, which Nick's not allowed in that Walmart anymore. And so, I went to the Walmart and, I scared someone. I ran around the corner and went, rah! And I filmed it, and it was 6 seconds. And I posted that video, and my goal was for that to reach 500 people. I posted the video. I went to sleep for school the next morning, and I woke up. That video had over 80,000 likes and over 80,000, reposts. It went internationally viral. I go back to school. My friends are like, dude, you're the zombie king. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what did I get myself into? That led me into this pranking career of, just making people laugh, just, doing funny things. And I always say it's a good thing to have one finger. I gained 1 million followers in under a year doing pranks online. And that led me into a career. That led me to getting hired by The Walking Dead to scare Norman Reedus in Japan as a zombie.
What episode?
It wasn't an episode. It was my own. It was me. Basically, they were on a press release and they were going to Japan. And they had to hide me because Norman Reedus already was known on my pranks. And so they hid me in this hotel, the Ritz-Carlton in Japan. And then they dressed me up in full zombie makeup with the producers. And they put me in this little food cart. And, he was sitting down for an interview and they said the batteries were dead. Let me go switch them out. And so here he was, him and a food cart. And I came out of the food cart and I scared him. And it was a viral video to promote The Walking Dead new season. And so, but that led me into a career. But the thing that I always talk about, especially that I learned from the great Tony Robbins, is the path to fulfillment, which as humans, what are we really chasing? Is it cars? Is it houses? Is it financial freedom? Humans are all chasing the emotion of happiness. Every single human being wants to be happier. And so how do we catch the kids early and show them the path to fulfillment is contribution and growth? How do we show the adults that don't even know? Because I learned that as an adult, right? And so I realized that, one, pranking wasn't fulfilling me anymore. And two, that when Nick has kids and grandkids, I want them to know me for much more than crawling around a Walmart. I got to do something bigger and better, right? And so that led me into, I want to share this because I don't usually share this. Instead of going to college, I had the opportunity to move to LA to become a core cast member of like an Impractical Joker show. So it was like a prank show, but the whole cast was disabled. You could pull pretty messed up pranks. And I had no prior expertise in business or contracts or TV show pilots. And so they said, Nick, we need you to move out here. We're going to film the pilot. Here's your pay. Everything was set in stone. I convinced my parents to not let me go to college and to move to LA with a random roommate. And they did. Thank you, Mom and Dad. And I moved out to LA and I signed a lease in this, hole in the wall, 1-bedroom apartment. And that, you know how it is in LA.
I do, yeah.
It's expensive. And 2 weeks after I signed the lease, they canceled the show. We never even filmed the pilot. And I'm like, what do you mean they canceled the show? This can happen? And so here I am, and I have to pay my rent. And thankful for my dad, he always enforced that rent was important and you never want to mess up your credit. And if you have bad credit, it's not good. And so I didn't have money. I only had about 10 grand saved up from the pranks and things that I was getting paid for pranks. And so that money was going fast, as you can tell. And my roommate stopped paying rent. He never got a job and he stopped paying rent. And the apartment was in my name. And so instead of buying food all the time, I would save my money up so I had enough for rent. And so, I was eating peanut butter and tortillas to fill my stomach. I was on the college diet of just ramen noodles. And it was the first time in my life, Gene, that I felt, I knew what it felt like to go to sleep hungry. And it was the worst feeling. And I got to experience that. And, Tony has this saying, our problems become gifts once we learn from them. And so many people have asked me, Nick, you going broke in LA, do you regret it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because that gave me the greatest gift of, one, I had the strength to move a man with no legs of an arm to move, across the world to LA. And second, I now know what it feels like, and I know how to live with absolutely nothing. I know how to live and operate with no food, no money in my bank account, living paycheck to paycheck, going into debt. I now have that gift of living through that experience. You see, there's so many things in our life that we think are negatives, that we think are loss. Here comes the one finger. If we pull one good piece of information from that problem, whether that's a different piece of knowledge, a different piece of perspective, a different way to go about life, we turn that loss into a win. And so that dark moment, I don't regret it, because it gave me one of the greatest gifts I can have in life.
When did you start making money? Like, when did you start saying, okay, I can use my situation to help other people, right? One of the greatest sayings, Zig Ziglar, it's service to many. It's what leads to greatness. At what point did you go, wait a minute, I can go share my insights? I mean, you weren't born an inspirational or motivational speaker. I saw your highlight reel there of these great big stages, and looking forward to you being on our stage this year and in the future years too. But at what point did somebody go, yeah, we'll pay you to share your, because I mean, as a speaker, you're sharing your perspective, your learnings, how it applied to you, what your awesome parents taught you, your trials, your tribulations, your difficulties, and how you overcame challenges. Every human's got challenges. You had physical challenges. At what point did you go, wait a minute, you'll pay me for this?
Yeah, absolutely. And so before I moved to Tampa, the major move in my life was moving to Tampa. But my dad's always weirdly right. He always said, Nick, you can always be a sports announcer. Your delivery is amazing. Or you can be, a speaker. These are the things that you could be able to do just to give a little context, my mom was like, Nick, as long as you're happy, I love you. And it's great. And my dad was like, you're happy, but you got to provide for yourself, son. You got to make your own money. And I'm glad that he was that stickler in my life, because he forced me, you know, he moved me in the direction to be independent financially, which that was always like a fear for me, is like, I can't work a regular job like regular people, or can I, you know, who knows? And so after the bodybuilding, because I analyzed the bodybuilding industry and I said, well, there's no guy with no legs in one-arm bodybuilding. If I do it successfully, people are going to catch on. And not only that, people can't take away my fit body, because you can't buy a fit body. And not only that, I can monetize it, because I'm a hopping, walking testimonial, right? And so that was the reason for bodybuilding. And so I moved to Tampa to pursue bodybuilding. It was a better environment than New Jersey. The weather was better. People were more inclined to be in shape. And yeah, thanks. And that's when I met probably the two greatest gifts of my life, and that's my best friends and the guys that I live with in my team. And I always say, sometimes it takes a person to come into your life and to really highlight a gift that you don't even see in yourself. So it's like, you know, it's like having a dusty trophy on the shelf, and your mom comes over, your friend comes over and shines that trophy. And then you finally realize it, because it's sculpted, right? It's mastered. And so I was in this mastermind of like 8 people. And there was this Russian guy. Now that is my best friend and one of my business partners. And there was this Russian guy, and he's like, what's your story, bro? And I'm like, it's a long story. And I shared my story, and no joke, I swear to God, the first thing he said to me was, you're going to be on stage with Tony Robbins one day. And my reply was, who's Tony Robbins? I had no idea. I wasn't in personal development. I wasn't in speaking. I had no idea who Tony Robbins was, but Ratmir had previously crewed and went to all Tony Robbins events. And I said, dude, I don't know who Tony Robbins is. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, your story is amazing. He's like, I don't know about your speaking skills. I want to work with you. And I looked at him, I said, dude, I don't know you. We don't have a relationship. And he said, I know. So he said, I'm going to work for you for free. He's like, I do real estate right now, but 50% of my day is going to be focused on getting you just to share your story, whether that's free. And if you like the work we do in a joking manner, maybe one day we'll start a company. And from that, planted a seed, right? And so he got me to, you know, he started booking meetings for me. And our first paid event was going into a local Tampa car dealership for their sales team to give them a pep talk. And we got paid, I think it was $1,000. And I remember we took a picture with the check. We're like, oh my God, you know, like you said, we got paid to speak. And Ratmir was, you know, one of the people that was like, dude, you can get paid to do this once you get really good. And surprisingly, and to me, the outside gave confidence in me, because my story was just me being Nick. I'm like, I'm just Nick, you know. I sometimes forget to tell people I drive a car, because to me, I'm just driving a car. But for everyone else, it's like, this guy's got no legs in one arm, he drives a car. And so I didn't really think my story was that cool. And so, you know, we started crafting the story and the message, and just like repetition, and, you know, getting me anywhere, you know, speaking for free or no money at all. Even if I remember the first time that a client covered our travel. It was a free engagement, but they covered our travel. We're like, dude, we get to fly for free, and we got our own hotel room. This is amazing. And that's when things were starting to pick up. And that's when we brought Don on, who was more numbers. He was, you know, he worked for Ernst & Young, and so his strength was numbers, and I can only count to 1. I'm just kidding. And, but you know, you have to delegate as an entrepreneur, you have to delegate your weaknesses. There's a lot of things that we're not good at. And so you outsource them, right? Because you don't want to put your energy there if you don't want to learn them, right? And so we brought Don on, and he was more the numbers and the back end of building the LLC and all these things. But we just grinded, and we were students of the game. And that's a massive core value in our life, is being a student of the game. And what I mean by that is, whether you're 23, 32, 60, 80, whatever it may be, you need to drop your ego and realize that you only know what you know, and be willing to learn from a 23-year-old to a janitor to the CEO, that you have to always be open to willing to learn, because that's your ego getting in the way. One of the biggest wealth traps as a human is the know-it-all syndrome. That stunts the growth and financial growth and spiritual, all the growth, if you think you know it all. And so we always came from this notion of being a student of the game. And so we're learning from people like Tony Robbins, Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, you know, Joseph McClellan, all these things. We
love those guys. All of them. Yeah, all of them. Exactly. Love those guys.
Because also the one thing that we learned from Tony is model. You don't got to reinvent the wheel. You just got to make it smoother. There's already people in your industry that are crushing it. Go ask them for help. Read their autobiography. You know, like, just learn from people who paved the way. Like Tony says, condense 20 years into 5, you know, or 2 years, right?
Nick, Well, okay. Help me with this one then. Who did you model where you could learn how to snowboard?
Yeah, myself, because there wasn't anyone that could teach me. And so,
well, this is metaphoric though, because all of us, we're in uncharted waters.
yeah,
There's no, with success, there's no manual I can go to of best practices of how to handle a crisis situation when you're an events company and you can't do events that are live. Right. We had to reinvent, but I love watching you on Instagram and I see, dude, snowboard. I mean, you're living the life I want to live. I want to get out there in the snow. I mean, at what point did you say, hey, I want to give this a shot? I mean, didn't you fall down? Didn't you scrape yourself up? I mean,
so the way
make it look easy.
Yeah, thank you. The way that snowboarding, well, I skateboarded my whole life. One of the first things my parents put me on at an early age was a skateboard. Instead of a wheelchair, they're like, hey, see if you can ride around on a skateboard. And so I always skateboarded, but I'm part of this mastermind called GoBundance. And one of their retreats is in Colorado, and they snowboard and they ski. And one of the main guys, Mike McCarthy, he's like a big mentor to us. And he was like, dude, I wonder if you could snowboard. I was like, yeah, I wonder if I could too. I mean, maybe if we put like a skateboard on top of it or something. And so basically, his assistant at the time, he gave the job to his assistant's son, Jacob, to cold call as many snowboarding manufacturers or shops to see who would be up for willing to make an adaptive snowboard, because it hasn't really been done like that. And so it was exercising the muscle of cold calling for this 15-year-old kid, Jacob, which thank you, Jacob. And they finally found someone, and they found a girl named Danny who was able to make an adaptive snowboard for me. And basically we masterminded, and I said, I think if we put a snowboard there with a harness that straps me in, and basically she built just that. And there was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of falling down, and, talk about full immersion. The first time that I snowboarded, I was on the slope 6 days straight. That's like unheard of. No one, you get super sore after like the first day. I'm persistent. 6 days straight, I'm on there. And finally I was able to get it because full immersion. And so we're talking about why how you do this, but we always talk about the why is the most important thing. And especially in this time of the corona and stuff, like I really want to reflect. I want people to reflect on, like, why do you get up every day? Why do you show up the way you do? Is it to provide financial freedom for your kids? Is it to retire your family? Is it to take your mom to Egypt? That's one of mine. Mom's in here. But like, why do you do what you every day? Because Tony always says the most powerful thing is your why and how it will reveal itself. But I live by that, like I always reflect on my why. And, one of my statements is, right now in this very moment, how can I appreciate the gift I am to myself and other human beings? So like, what is your why? And I want people to reflect on that, because I think we can all agree that we get caught up in day to day. We get caught up in the motions, right? Going to work, whatever it may be. But why do you really get up every day? So I'd like people to self-reflect on that. Reasons come first, answers come later. And it took me a while I heard that for many years, it took me a while to get it. It's like, the reason is your why. What, when the why is clear, the how gets easy. I have all these great lines from Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and some of the great sages out there. You went really quick when you said, yeah, I drive a car. Well, how'd that come to be? Because it's not just being able to drive a car. You got to pay attention to your stuff, and you got to watch all the other drivers coming back and forth. Yeah, I have that came to, I always strive for independence, right? And so, one of the things in high school is important to have a car. And, it took me a little bit, the process was a little bit longer for me, but my dad was able to find someone to adapt a lot of electronics to do this car. Well, anyway, that car, the electronics had, not worked anymore. And so I had to figure out a way to, find an adaptation. So I was able to look at hand controls and stuff. And I'm a big car guy. I love cars. It's one of the things that pull me, because like, you can have things that, really fulfill you and pull you. And it's okay to have materialistic goals, right? We all have materialistic goals. And so, my buddy who trains me in bodybuilding, he's a big car guy too. And so I was like, I want a race car, but I can't afford the top thing yet. So what's a cool race car that I can, mess around with? And so I got, actually full circle, the guy who filmed, the guy who paid me for my first speaking engagement, who owned the Toyota dealership. Years later, I came back, I interviewed him on my podcast, which we're releasing soon. And after the podcast, I said, listen, dude, I'm an entrepreneur. We don't show much income. I don't get approved for anything. Can you pass a loan for this car? And he was like, absolutely. And so that's how I got my car that I have today. And I turboed the car, and I was able to get a very simple adaptions, which basically it's it's a lever that comes out to here. My friend Cody built it off the adaptions, and I push it in for a mechanical brake. And then I go like this for an electronic throttle on the same thing. And I have a video on my Instagram of me ripping donuts in circles and all that stuff, but I love cars. And so it was, getting creative on how I can fulfill this dream. And so, now I have a car, and that provides me with independence, right? Because I think that was the most important why, is like, I want to be able to drive around. I want to be able to go to the store by myself, go to the mall, pick my friends up from the airport, whatever it may be. And so that was the really thing that pulled me, was always striving to be independent.
Everybody, I mean, hopefully you're getting the energy and the positive vibes and the can-do spirit mindset from Nick. And if you have specific questions, please put them in there, because we're getting close to wrapping up. Right now, one thing about this crisis we're in is it impacts everybody. It's the elite and the rich and everybody's equal in this situation. And it's caused us to rethink everything.
Yeah.
And I always get reminded of something we shared on video, and you caught me in the right moment when we were talking about the have-tos versus the get-tos. Yeah. And I want you to share that with this audience live.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we talked about this concept in our interview in person, but you see, I always talk about humans getting caught up in things. We all get caught up in things, and some of the times we forget to appreciate things. The fact that we woke up today, we have clothes on our body, people in our lives that love us. And so there's this thing that I've said, and it's change your have-tos to get-tos. And what I mean by that, there's so many things in our life that we say we have to do. I have to go to the gym, or in this state, I have to do my home workout, or I have to build that business. I have to change those diapers. I have to knock that door, build this business, whatever it may be. There's so many things that we say we have to do. But those things are actually privileges. And they're privileges because a man with no legs and one arm, there are millions of kids and adults right now that are paralyzed in wheelchairs, that are confined in hospital beds, that look outside and see kids running around and say, man, I would switch places with a man with no legs and one arm just because he can go outside, he can go to the gym, he can build that business, he can hold the phone. There's so many things that we take for granted that other people don't have, that they can't do. And so you need to remind yourself constantly that the things that you're able to do on a day-to-day basis, those are a privilege, because not everyone gets those opportunities. Mm-hmm. Not everyone gets to go outside and run around, and not everyone gets to drive a car, and not everyone gets to live in America or wherever you're tuning in from. There's so many other places that are less privileged, right? And so change your have-tos to your get-tos, and your life will change in that moment. You get to wake up every day. Hopefully, right? If you get that gift of life. Right. You get to eat food, or you get to FaceTime your mom from across the country. You get to do a Zoom call with people. Like, these things are privileges. These things, and that's because our conditioning primes us to expect everything, right? Mm-hmm. We get Netflix immediately. We get our food immediately from Uber Eats. We don't have to leave our house nowadays. Amazon, everything's expected. And that's why it's so important to plant the seeds in the youth as well, because they've been brought up in this generation. They don't know any different. It's the expectation generation, Gene. And that's why I want to plant seeds and show the kids, expedite the process and give them all this operating system so that they don't have to be, suicidal. They don't have to be unconfident. They don't have to focus on all this negativity and be able to express their emotions. We expect so much. And so in this very moment right now, even in all the craziness, all the uncertainty, what right now in your life can you appreciate? You appreciate the fact that you're with your kids every day. You appreciate that you actually have a house, because some people are homeless. You appreciate the fact that you were able to get some food at the grocery store. Maybe you didn't get your favorite chocolate, but you still have your necessities. Because our problems need focus in order to live. We know that. Our problems need you to focus on it. So let's focus on the things that are good in our life. Let's focus on the things that we can appreciate right and flood ourselves with gratitude, because the emotion of gratitude outweighs all the negative emotions.
That's so true. Nick, you have, we could do this for a long time. And the whole idea of, 2 weeks ago, literally it was just 2 weeks ago when we had to make the decision to let our staff work from home. It was still fairly unknown. All we knew is there's a COVID thing, and it's hitting New York and had hit China. And our team immediately went into, and it's not this video thing is not just me. I get the pleasure of being able to do the interviews. There's a whole team of people that make this happen, from Brad Murdy's writing copy and making sure we're getting the word out, to John Workington, making sure that we have the technology to work all this stuff. It's not just magic and you click buttons. It takes work. And Jerry Maguire orchestrating. Thank you, everybody, for bringing this positive light into the world. We went right to how do we serve the people? How do we leverage two of our greatest resources? One is connection with some of the greatest brains, inspirational people like yourself, some people that have been super successful as stock market people, to people that build podcasts or write books. How do we bring these resources to the world through this forum called Zoom? And we have, a large audience base. So we're going to continue, based on the feedback we get, to keep bringing the best in the world to the rest of the world. A lot of you may have never heard of Nick, but I bet all of you will never forget Nick. And, this guy is such a gem. And I didn't realize you were only 23 years old. I mean, you're just getting started, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, 23 years old, and you work your way to be on stage with Tony. And most people don't know this, but there's a very small percentage of people that literally share the stage. And that's pretty impressive. You said, Andy Broadway, who's our main connection, said that you had some resources you wanted to offer to the audience.
Yeah.
And do you have some slides you want to show everybody? I'm looking for any questions for Nick.
Yeah.
And all of the thank yous. This is awesome. Gratitude outweighs all the negative emotion. I want to get some resources in the hands of these great people. Now, this is the only moral obligation that everybody watching this has, that we're going to do the work to put these on, and we're going to bring you the greatest, and they're going to get you resources. Part of your moral obligation is to not only use these resources, because the tendency is that when things are given to us as humans, we don't appreciate them. Therefore, most people don't do them.
Yeah.
If you're going to take advantage of this at no charge, then the moral obligation is who are the 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 people you're going to share these same resources with, and get on Instagram with Nick and follow him and share his stuff. That's how we can make a dent. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I only have 2 slides here that I want to show. And I know what like I said, in what I was sharing, I know what it feels like to be a suicidal kid. I know what it feels like to be unconfident, depressed, all these things. And oftentimes we try to fall in love with our own product, but really your customers' clients create your service. What are their needs? Focus on how you can serve the people in your life with their very needs. Make them your own. And so I put this: pass the truth to the next generation, teach them early what we learn late. And what I mean by that is, so many parents have asked me, Nick, can you coach my kids? Or can you send a video to my kids? Or I wish my kid was here in the seminar. And so I'm like, oh my God, this is a perfect way for me to expedite the process for the kids. Because listen, especially now that kids are home, you want them consuming the right content.
Right.
Like whether it's YouTube or video games, but at least once a week, you want them consuming something that's planting seeds that gets them to look at the world a little bit differently, or gets them playing at a higher level. And so what we created is Junior Victorious. My whole brand's Victorious. This is Junior Victorious. And this is a 52-week curriculum where every Sunday I send out a video lesson to your kid or a kid you care about on life skills, on emotional awareness, on mental health, on mindset, on physical health, everything that I've accumulated over the 23 years of my life to help the future generation play at a higher level. Because listen, when I leave this earth, I don't know when I'm going to leave, but it is my duty to give all I've learned to the future generation so they can make a massive impact. And so Junior Victorious is a lesson every Sunday. And also I give the parents a private Facebook community where I go live with not only me, but other thought leaders. And in this, it's a 14-day trial. I want to give a free 14-day trial. You get live calls with me. And I also created a Victorious University program for entrepreneurs and adults that I filmed all over the world, which is valued at $497. I'm going to give it free because how can we provide as much value as we can in this time of distress and uncertainty? And also my book, Victim to Victor, the audiobook format. But what does it look like for your kid if he doesn't consume the right knowledge, especially in this time? What does it look like if your kid continues to struggle with confidence, or your kid doesn't know the path to fulfillment? Like, what is his life going to look like 5, 10 years down the line?
If we can catch the kids early and plant the seeds now, they will play at a higher level in life. But if we don't, the suicide rates are skyrocketing. Kids are going to be more depressed. They're going to wonder why cars and houses don't provide, longevity, fulfillment. What is their life going to look like if they don't consume the right content? And that's exactly why I wanted to share this opportunity and give you a 14-day free trial. That's 2 lessons. That's 2 free calls with me. And the link is here. Take a screenshot now, or the link is going to be in the chat as well. Take the action now. This is only going to be up for another day, so you and your kids can play at a higher level in life. But if we don't catch your kids now, if we don't plant the seeds now, I don't know what their life is going to look like, because especially on social media and television, there's a lot of negativity. And I want to be that bright light in their life that is planting seeds that may blossom in a week, a month, a year. They may get into college and say, oh, Nick taught me that thing years ago. It makes so much sense now. But if we don't catch them now, I don't know what's going to happen. And so this is my gift from me to you. Click the link. The link is in the chat. They're posting the link in the chat. This is only going to be up for a day, or screenshot this. But I want you and your kids to play at a higher level in life. And I think I'm the guy to do it. Your mic's muted, Gene.
Mindofavictor.com. Mindofavictor.com. This is super cool, Nick. So you're giving this away. I obviously sell this. And so every Sunday, that's a new lesson that comes out now, I don't know if you know this, Nick, I've got 7 kids, me and Jennifer do between us. She brought 4 and I brought 3, and 6 of the 7 are 17 years old or 7, and in between. I love this. I didn't know you had this specific angle to support kids. And that's a big one, because right now it's YouTube, and they're getting, flashed with commercials, and, they're watching these videos, but marketers are going to find a way to advertise into that audience of YouTube, whether the 7-year-old or the 17-year-old's watching it. This puts doses of positivity. You've had a chance to get a small tidbit from Nick here for a half hour, but this guy has something special to share. And like I said, you're just getting started, man. 23. Yeah. And
I'm grateful. Like I said, I'm very grateful for the proximity I had, especially with, people like you, Tony, Joseph, Tim, all these people. And I don't take that for granted. And I also don't take, the people that are viewing this for granted. Your time and your energy, you don't get that back. And so I'm extremely grateful to be here, and I will do my very best each and every day to get better so I can provide more value to you and your families.
There's such a big difference between people that just talk the talk and they don't live it. This is another thing I love about Instagram is, I go to you for motivation. I love your stuff coming up every day. And okay, there's Nick lifting weights. There's Nick snow skiing. There's Nick driving the car. And I'm like, I got to step my game up, right? Because and I reflect back on the have tos versus the get tos. And I know that as, somebody that, I can get locked into some of my own patterns of the list is long, and I've got to go here, and I've got to go there, and I've got to go there. And I have to jolt myself, use the Joseph McClendon technique, and say, no, wait a minute, I get to do this.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I'm not in the rain and I have a roof over my head versus just taking it for granted. You talked about the generation that takes things for granted. I don't think that's limited to a generation. I think it's all of us.
Yeah, agreed.
And this little shakeup that we've got has certainly helped me, and a lot of people I'm corresponding with realize that what's really most important. The other interesting thing, I'm a lot older than you, is there's some areas where this feels like the old days, sitting at the table and cooking a dinner and eating it. Oh my goodness. Like that was a rare day. Now it's every night, thanks to, Jennifer and Madison, going for a walk, playing in the park. I did an Instagram post last week, and it just dawned on me. We were riding around on a bike, just not going somewhere. We were just riding around. I said, this is me riding around on a bike, not going anywhere, just going around. And there's going to be some positive resets coming out of this for life. I mean, what's your take on that? Well, everybody's getting this trial here, mindofavictor.com. If you're listening on audio, go get this stuff. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're giving it away.
I've seen, like I said, I've seen more people with their families, you know, at the parks, even though they shouldn't do the social gathering, but like more presence. You know, like I said, this is a time for people to realize like all the things that they take for granted, or all the things they can focus on, you know, having dinner with your family. You know, now that you have dinner with your family, you can connect with your kids and be more present. What are they grateful for today? What are the wins you had today? What can you appreciate in this moment? This gives you a time to build more, you know, a deeper relationship with the people around you that you may take for granted because we're on the go. We're at work. We're doing our thing. This is just going to give human beings a time to put us on our butt and realize all the things that are important in life and all the things that we take for granted in life. And so you can either look at this as a massive problem, which it's dangerous and things are happening, but inside your family, if you're healthy, this is the greatest gifts for you. A time to be home, a time to reevaluate, pivot, and build the relationship with your teams and in your families on a whole deeper level, because there's more presence than ever.
One of the best questions you can ask, and as we all know by now, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the quality of questions you ask, right? How do you come out of this even stronger than you were when you went into it? Now, we just got into this 2 weeks ago. Let's say 2 weeks and 3 days ago when it really started hitting. How do you come out of this stronger? It's going to come through personal development. It's going to come through what you're reading, who you're following. There's Nick's Instagram, so you make sure you get actually Nick and not, I'm guessing, do you have any imposter accounts trying to say they're you?
I don't know, but I got the little blue check mark, so go to that one.
Yeah, it's got the blue check mark. This is what it, oh, I didn't mean to pull that one up. This was pretty cool. You threw the Frisbee. Like, when did you have the idea? I wonder if I can throw the Frisbee and catch it myself. I love Frisbee.
My pop-pop used to play Frisbee with me. It was one of the things I realized I could throw pretty good. So I'm pretty good at Frisbee. And so it's another sport that I can play to a good potential.
So while all of us are, I mean, you wouldn't be here now. I think we've got 250, I guess we're down to 189 people on this live right now, but it is absolutely clear that investing in ourselves is the best investment we can make. And I think just a fraction underneath that, a hair underneath that, is the investments we make in our kids and our family members. And I love the angle you're taking on personal development for kids.
Yeah.
And if you want to, I'd like to have you get on with my stepdaughter, Madison Shipman, and look her up. She's a Nickelodeon star. And I think you guys would gel very well because she is speaking to an audience of, what's that?
I met her at our interview in person.
Yeah. Yeah. So Maddie, and that's what I'm encouraging her. I'm like, get on these things and share this wisdom you're getting off these. You know, I invite her into a lot of those video interviews that we do. You know, in LA, you and I did it, and then you know, we did Jersey and Atlanta and Orlando with some of the biggest names out there. And I think you two would be a good collab for you to get on and speak with her audience.
Anything I can do.
She's got a big one. Absolutely, just keep spreading the good stuff. Keep serving others, good things happen. Nick, you are an absolute gem of a human. I cannot wait to figure out what we're going to do together on the big stages, and not just America, obviously Europe and Asia and Australia and all those other places, but the world cannot get enough of you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much, guys.
Yep. God bless you, buddy. Talk to you later. Jerry, you want to do the recap?
Yes, absolutely. And once again, we're going to recap what Nick had to share, but we just want to thank Nick for joining us today. And what he shared, obviously, everybody felt. I mean, just the emotion and the power of what he had to say and share kicked it off in extremely powerful fashion. Just with that video itself, gave you the highlight reel of everything that's been overcome. But it didn't always start there. You know, he mentioned the struggles and the pains and the challenges, but mentally and emotionally associated with the physical challenges that he had. But it was by focusing on what he did want that ultimately made the difference. And so I'm going to share a couple of my thoughts. Would love to hear what were the breakthroughs for you. We've got a lot of gratitude and appreciation for the inspiration that was shared. I'm going to go back to my notes here. Great question for ourselves is, how can we use this time to strengthen our weaknesses? Gene mentioned multiple times throughout today's event, the questions that we ask ourselves ultimately determine what we get out of life. You want a better life? Ask better questions. So instead of asking questions like, why always me? Or why is this so hard? We can ask ourselves a question, how can we use this time to strengthen our weaknesses? Another powerful statement, the most important relationship you have is with yourself. One of the things that you hear, like we heard from Nick or Tony or Jim Rohn and others, is how are you treating yourself? What are the kinds of conversations that you have with yourself? Because that will ultimately manifest itself in thoughts and feelings and actions. He also talked about the importance of the path to fulfillment. And another quote from Tony, which Nick referenced a lot, is this idea that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Nick talked about houses and cars and whatever else. Is that the focus? Or is the focus to get fulfillment? And then leading to the fact that what are we teaching our kids to focus on as a result? So we've got some comments here. The world outside isn't going to change for you. And ultimately, Christina mentions the importance of having this solution attitude. Instead of focusing on the problem as this growing issue, ask yourself, what's the solution? Or one of the most powerful questions that was ever shared with me by a consultant and now friend was, under what conditions would it be possible to? And then fill in the blank. Under what conditions would it be possible to ride a snowboard despite physical challenges? Under what conditions would it be possible to wake up every morning at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m., whatever the number is, absolutely on fire, like the tactics, the strategies, and the tips that Joseph shared with us today? Like Tim, under what conditions would it be possible to take this mess and turn it into a message that ultimately serves others? Those were some of my greatest takeaways from today, and some of yours continue to express the appreciation for Nick. And a lot of questions in here around where are the links? We're gonna make sure to reshare all the links from our speakers via email. So make sure to keep an eye out for those. Some of these have limited times on them in terms of when you can sign up for these free offers. And we're gonna get all of them out to you today. I'm gonna leave this open for just a few more minutes. So scan the chat if you wanna pull things out. We'll even try to post a couple of them again in terms of websites, Instagram pages, whatever else. Grab it out of the chat, bookmark it on whatever browser you're on, it's Safari or Google Chrome. Take advantage and take action today.
Hey, Jerry, I want to add that tomorrow we bring brain expert, mindset expert, John Assaraf at 12 o'clock noon Pacific time. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, huge.
We've been prepping for this one all week.
Yeah, I was so wrapped up in today's event and thinking about all the things that everybody shared today. Tomorrow we have John Assaraf, which is amazing. We've been on calls with him. I don't know about you guys, but you might remember a ways back when John Assaraf created and was on The Secret, which was something I watched, I want to say late teens, early 20s, which is one of the things that really shifted my mind around this importance of the power of what you focus on. Now, some of you have seen the emails, some of you are registered. If you're not registered, check your email, get registered for John Assaraf going live tomorrow. This is a rare opportunity to have John in this environment, a lot like some of these other talents today, but we're going for potentially, probably up to 2 hours tomorrow, starting at noon Pacific time, 12 p.m. Pacific time. You've got emails from Gene. You may have an email from me. You might have one from Success Resources announcements talking about tomorrow's event with John Assaraf. We're going to be talking about strategies and tactics related to how our brains function in order to overcome and conquer fear. One of the things that Joseph talked about today is this idea that everybody has fear. Some just have less fear, but it takes conscious effort, strategies that allow us to make more progress than we would on our own in order to have less fear, more positivity, and more action, which ultimately leads to more actualization of the things that we want in our life. If we focus on the things that we do want, we will get more of that instead of focusing on the things we don't want. So tomorrow with John Assaraf, noon, look for the registration links. They're in your email. Pay attention to that. Don't miss out. We're going to have some killer content for you tomorrow. So again, thank you to everyone for joining us today. We had several hundred people come through today's event. Grateful for the opportunity to be able to share these insights with you. Grateful for our guests who are doing this out of the goodness of their heart. offering free books, free tools and tactics. So look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Gene?
12 o'clock tomorrow, John Assaraf. We're going to keep bringing the best in the world to the rest of the world. And we've got more coming. If you have anybody you want to see, then make sure and send a note. And as these emails come in and inviting you to these awesome sessions designed to help you empower your life, to change the way you think, to keep you focused on, what we do know, Jerry, is a year from now, all of us are going to arrive somewhere. And doesn't it make sense to Jim Rohn says, the setting of the sail makes all the difference in the destination. That's what we're igniting here. And I'm really thankful for you, because it's not like these emails don't write themselves and they don't copyright themselves and the graphics don't just show up. I mean, we're putting effort, time, and energy and focus in this. And it goes back to something I said earlier, like I'm watching some of these great brands do things that are completely selfless, like the car manufacturing companies that are now employing their workers to build respirators and masks and all the things that are going on. And I convert that over to some of these companies, I talked about that property management company email that I received saying, we will enforce eviction. We will do this. You need to pay. And in my mind, I'm making an implant to say, these companies that are being selfish right now, despite, let's face it, every company is impacted. Every company has cash flow issues, revenue issues, bookings that canceled, just name it. Everybody's impacted. But I'm watching companies step up to give and do the right thing. I'm going to remember those brands in my decisions moving forward. Just like I'm going to remember this housing company, this property management company in the future, because in my mind, I'm like, I'm never doing business with those folks, ever, 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 ever. So for you watching this right now, what can you do? If at minimum you're sharing these links to people and encouraging people to get on. While I was doing these videos, I'm texting every single person I know. I'm like, get on these Zoom videos, because I got Joseph McClendon. I've got Tim Storey. I have Nick, because everybody, including your kids, deserves some optimism and some different angles, some different voices. And, John Assaraf is another one that has been impacting millions of lives well before the movie The Secret, and which talks about this law of attraction. And right now, law of attraction, you can look at that as, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Or people say, oh yeah, that law of attraction, motivational stuff. But the truth is, how you see something will shape the way you feel about it. We're in a difficult situation. And if you're going to optimistically look at it and say, I'm going to get better during this time, now's the time to do it. We're going to keep bringing you the best in the world. It's up to you to share it. I'd love to see 1,000 people on the call tomorrow with John. And this, we're prepping for this, and we got our marketing material going out. And all we're trying, imagine this, everybody. We're trying to convince you to get on something for free that's going to help you. Do you understand that? That we're up late writing copy and making sure we want you to register, because what happens is if we just send the link out, then, we'll get a few hundred people that'll show up. But what happens is when you register, the odds of you attending increases by about 30%. Now, if you register and pay for something, the odds increase to 60, 70, 80%. We're not asking you to pay, but the only thing I'm asking is the moral obligation that when you get these emails to come see John Assaraf tomorrow, that you forward them out to your list, that you repost our stuff on social. Why wouldn't we want to have 1,000 people on? Our Zoom line accepts 1,000 people. Why wouldn't we put 1,000 on? And we've got as high as 250 today. But do your part. Pass the stuff on.
Absolutely.
That's it, Jerry.
Awesome. Great message. Thank you, Gene. Appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for your positive comments. Again, like Gene said, take action. Take action on taking advantage and take action on sharing. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow.
Jerry, great job. Great job to you and Brad and John and Marianne and Anna and the sales team, everybody who's gotten people on here. Great job. It's not, I get to take all the credit because my face is on the screen, but it's really the work of a lot of people that are bringing that stuff to you. So thanks, everybody. Tomorrow, 12 o'clock Pacific, be there.
Absolutely. Thank you.